there are places the light of science still cannot reach. For every law we've written in stone, every theory we've proudly claimed as truth, there remain stories, fragments of time, too strange, too haunting, too impossibly real to explain away. Imagine armies swallowed whole by the desert with no trace, sky-filling explosions no one heard coming, ancient devices etched with symbols no living soul can read. These aren't tales from fiction. They're scars on history, puzzles left behind by civilizations that vanished before their secrets were ever told. Why did hundreds dance themselves to death in 1518? Who was the masked man imprisoned for life, never named, never tried? What whispers hide behind glowing lights in the Arctic sky? These are questions that refuse to die. Tonight, you won't find answers, only deeper questions. What you're about to hear will unsettle, fascinate, and perhaps awaken something ancient in you, a quiet wonder for the unknowable. So dim the lights, silence the noise of the modern world, and let the mysteries begin. Sit back, relax, and let's dive deeper into the unknown. In the heart of Egypt's western desert, where the Sahara stretches vast and indifferent beneath an unrelenting sun, the sand seems to whisper stories older than memory. Wind sweeps across dunes shaped by centuries, sculpting and reshaping the land as it always has. But buried somewhere beneath this shifting ocean of dust, if the accounts are to be believed, lies an entire army, lost not in battle, but to the desert itself. It is one of history's strangest disappearances. According to ancient sources, in 524 BCE, the Persian king Cambyses II, son of Cyrus the Great, sent an army of 50,000 men into the western Egyptian desert. Their mission, to destroy the oracle of Amun at the Siwa oasis, a site of religious power and symbolic resistance in Egypt. Herodotus, the Greek historian writing roughly a century later, tells us that this force marched out of Thebes and into the desert, confident and fully supplied. They never arrived. The account goes on to describe how, after several days of travel, a fierce and sudden sandstorm enveloped the entire army. In a single moment, the desert swallowed them whole. No survivors, no witnesses, not a single trace ever found. But how could an entire force, armed, trained, and supported, simply vanish? The idea sounds mythical, almost poetic, like something from legend rather than logistical reality. Yet Herodotus, though often prone to dramatization, was not alone in preserving this story. Later historians, intrigued by the mystery, accepted the account as one of antiquity's unsolved riddles. And so, the lost army of Cambyses has remained a quiet enigma in the historical record for over 2,000 years. Geographically, the region between Thebes and Siwa is no mere stretch of sand. It is a brutal, sparsely marked expanse, filled with salt flats, sun-scorched ridges, and terrain that offers little in the way of mercy. Even today, with modern vehicles and satellite guidance, navigation can be perilous. In the 6th century BCE, crossing this region would have been an immense logistical challenge, one requiring expert guides, an intimate knowledge of oases, and constant supplies of water and food. Could poor planning and a hostile environment alone account for the disappearance? Some scholars argue that the army may have become disoriented, losing its way in a labyrinth of dunes, slowly succumbing to thirst and starvation. Others suggest that the Persian soldiers were ambushed by hostile desert tribes or met a more mundane fate, fragmented, scattered, and eventually absorbed into the harsh landscape, their bones buried by centuries of sandstorms. But such explanations fall short in one critical way. Where is the evidence? Modern expeditions have sought to uncover the army's fate. In 1933, a pair of brothers, Laszlo and Mahmud Almasi, claimed to have found Persian artifacts, such as arrowheads and fragments of ancient tools, deep within the desert. Decades later, in 2009, Italian researchers announced a more controversial discovery. Near the Gilf Kebir Plateau, they unearthed what they believed were human remains, tools, and even fragments of Persian weaponry. All consistent, they argued, with a military encampment. But these findings remain debated, and no conclusive proof has surfaced. Were they Persian? Was it the army of Cambyses? Or are these remnants of something or someone else? And then there are the fringe theories. Some suggest that the army never set out for Siwa at all, that Herodotus, relying on second-hand stories, may have distorted a smaller, unrelated disaster. Others speculate about the role of supernatural forces, aligning the event with local Bedouin legends of cursed sands and spirits who guard the desert's secrets. More imaginative voices point to unexplored cave systems, underground chambers, or even extraterrestrial involvement, though such claims, lacking evidence, remain firmly outside the realm of mainstream scholarship. Yet, the fascination persists. Why does this story, told by a Greek historian 2.5 millennia ago, still capture our imagination today? Perhaps because it touches something primal. The fear of vanishing without a trace, of nature overwhelming civilization, of human ambition undone by the earth itself. Or perhaps because we see in it a metaphor, a reminder that even the greatest empires can be humbled by forces they do not understand. Still, questions linger. If 50,000 men disappeared, where are their remains? Why has modern technology failed to find even a sliver of certainty in a world mapped by satellite and scoured by archaeologists? Is it possible the truth is buried deeper than we've searched? Or that the story itself was never quite what it seemed? The desert keeps its secrets well. As we stare out across those endless dunes, listening to the silence and the wind, we might ask, what else lies hidden beneath that ancient sea of sand, waiting patiently for its moment to return to light? As the desert's secrets dissolve beneath shifting sands, our journey turns northward, far from arid dunes to the frozen expanse of Siberia, a land of endless taiga, jagged mountains, and relentless cold. Here, in the remote Tunguska region, a sudden, violent event left an indelible mark on history. A fiery explosion that flattened nearly 2,000 square kilometers of forest in an instant, yet defies complete explanation to this day. It was the early morning of June 30th, 1908, when witnesses hundreds of kilometers away reported a dazzling flash in the sky, brighter than the sun, followed by a shockwave that shattered windows, knocked people off their feet, and sent a massive blast echoing through the Siberian wilderness. Trees were snapped like matchsticks, flattened outward from a central point, leaving a radial scar visible from space. Yet, in this remote wilderness, no impact crater was ever found. Initial theories pointed to a meteor or comet exploding mid-air, an airburst that released enormous energy before hitting the ground. Calculations estimate the blast released energy equivalent to 10 to 15 megatons of TNT, hundreds of times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. It was the largest explosion on Earth in modern recorded history, and the first of its kind witnessed by people alive to tell the tale. Scientific expeditions in the decades that followed brought back detailed observations and samples. Soil contained unusual levels of silica and other minerals. Trees showed strange burn patterns. Yet none of the evidence neatly fit known impact models. Where was the crater? Where were the meteorite fragments? And what precisely exploded? In 1927, Leonid Kulik, a Russian mineralogist, led the first official expedition to Tunguska. He trekked into the devastated forest, documenting the massive area of flattened trees, some still rooted but bent sideways, others broken off entirely. Kulik's team found small fragments of glassy rock, microscopic evidence they believed could have originated from a cosmic body. Yet the mystery endured. Over time, the airburst meteor hypothesis became the prevailing explanation, but other voices emerged, probing more enigmatic possibilities. Could it have been a comet made largely of ice, which vaporized entirely before striking the surface, leaving no crater? Or was it a fragment of an asteroid, perhaps rare in composition, that broke apart with little residue? These ideas sought to reconcile the scale of devastation with the absence of traditional impact signs. More speculative theories surfaced as well, captivating imaginations beyond scientific circles. Some suggested the blast was the result of a natural gas explosion, methane trapped beneath the permafrost suddenly igniting and releasing massive energy. Others entertained the idea of a mini black hole passing through the Earth, tearing a temporary path through the atmosphere. There are those who speculated the event was linked to secret military experiments or even extraterrestrial craft, though such claims lack tangible evidence and remain firmly in the realm of conjecture. Intriguingly, local Evenki legends tell of a fiery dragon in the sky, an omen that preceded the blast. Eyewitness accounts from Siberian villagers describe a thunderous roar, a bright light, and a tremor that shook the land itself. Such stories blend folklore with reality, adding layers to a mystery that spans science and myth. The Tunguska event challenges our understanding of natural catastrophes. It is a stark reminder that Earth's atmosphere is a dynamic, sometimes violent place, capable of surprises that science is still catching up to comprehend. Despite advances in astronomy, meteorology, and geology, Tunguska remains a puzzle piece that refuses to fit neatly into any single box. What exactly exploded over that remote Siberian forest? Why did it leave such a massive imprint, yet no conventional crater? And how many similar events have passed unnoticed, erased by time and wilderness? As satellites now monitor near-Earth objects with increasing precision, Tunguska is studied not only as a historical curiosity, but as a warning. The skies hold threats we must understand. And yet, the full story is not yet told. As we leave behind the scorched Siberian taiga and continue deeper into the vast tapestry of the unknown, we are reminded that even the most powerful blasts, the most brilliant flashes, can leave questions lingering in their wake, questions that invite us to look upward and wonder what else might be silently waiting in the shadows above. As the echoes of the Siberian blast fade into the vastness of history, our journey takes us to the turbulent waters of the ancient Mediterranean, where another mystery unfolds, one shaped not by natural forces, but by men cloaked in enigma. Known simply as the Sea Peoples, this elusive confederation of maritime raiders swept across the eastern Mediterranean around the Late Bronze Age, leaving destruction in their wake and questions that have puzzled historians and archaeologists for centuries. Imagine the eastern Mediterranean coastline over 3,000 years ago, bustling port cities, prosperous kingdoms, and thriving trade routes connecting Egypt, Anatolia, the Levant, and beyond. Then, without warning, these coastal bastions faced relentless attacks. Cities were sacked, empires shaken, and the established order thrown into chaos. The Sea People's raids were devastating and swift, disrupting civilizations at their zenith. Yet, who exactly were these Sea Peoples? Where did they come from? Why did they strike with such ferocity and disappear almost as suddenly? Ancient Egyptian records provide some insight. Pharaohs like Ramesses III left inscriptions detailing battles fought against these invaders. Reliefs depict strange ships, unfamiliar armor, and warriors unlike those native to Egypt. Yet the texts are limited, often propagandistic, leaving historians to piece together fragments from multiple sources, Hittite, Ugaritic, and Greek alike. What complicates matters is the ambiguity of the term Sea Peoples itself, a collective name likely covering several distinct groups, united by a shared maritime lifestyle and a common purpose. Some scholars suggest they were displaced tribes from the Aegean, driven by famine, conflict, or societal collapse to seek new lands by force. Others propose they were mercenaries, pirates, or refugees caught in the tides of a changing world. The archaeological record adds tantalizing clues. Across the Mediterranean, destruction layers in sites like Ugarit and Mycenae coincide with the timing of these incursions. Artifacts bearing stylistic influences from various cultures hint at a melting pot of identities. Yet, concrete evidence pinpointing the origins of the Sea Peoples remains elusive. More perplexing is what happened after their raids. Unlike typical conquerors who establish lasting settlements, the Sea Peoples vanished from the historical stage almost as quickly as they appeared. Some argue they assimilated into the cultures they attacked. Others believe they were ultimately defeated and dispersed. This has given rise to speculative theories. Could the Sea Peoples have been displaced populations fleeing catastrophic climate changes or volcanic eruptions? Might they represent the movements of proto-ethnic groups who later formed new civilizations? Or were they part of a coordinated effort to undermine dominant powers for reasons lost to time? Some fringe hypotheses even link the Sea Peoples to mythical lost continents, or suggest they possessed advanced seafaring technology that allowed rapid strikes far beyond the known capabilities of their era. While such ideas remain outside mainstream acceptance, they underscore the gaps in our understanding. What is clear is that the Sea Peoples symbolize a pivotal moment in history, a threshold where the ancient world teetered on the edge of transformation. Their raids contributed to the collapse of several great Bronze Age civilizations, ushering in a new era marked by upheaval and renewal. As we stand on the shores of the Mediterranean today, the question remains: who were these shadowy mariners whose names echo faintly through the annals of time? What drove them to upheave an entire region? And what stories lie buried beneath the waves and ruins they left behind? The mystery endures, inviting us to look deeper into the fog of prehistory and wonder what truths may still be concealed, waiting patiently to be uncovered. From the windswept dunes and ancient battlefields, our journey now moves to a quieter, yet no less enigmatic chapter, a mystery that whispers of identity lost and origins unknown. It is the story of a boy who seemed to appear without a past, a name, or a history. A young life shrouded in silence, wrapped in shadows, and poised forever on the threshold between fact and speculation. The tale begins one autumn morning in the early 1950s, in a small town nestled amid the rolling hills of Pennsylvania. A boy, no older than 8 or 9, was found wandering alone on a country road. He was dressed simply, his clothes worn but clean, and bore no identification. Strangely, he spoke no English, or at least none that locals could understand. There was no name, no family, no recollection of where he had come from or how he had arrived. The community that discovered him was both puzzled and compassionate. The boy appeared healthy, though his eyes carried a distant, almost haunted look, as if fragments of memories flickered just beyond his reach. Authorities tried tirelessly to learn his identity. Schools and social workers attempted to communicate, only to find the boy's language indecipherable, his origins completely opaque. He became known simply as the Nameless Boy. Despite efforts to locate relatives or match his description to any missing children, no leads ever surfaced. The boy did not resemble anyone locally known. Experts and linguists who heard his speech were baffled. His words bore no resemblance to any recognized language. Was it a dialect lost to time? Or something altogether different? Over time, the boy was placed in foster care, where he slowly learned English but never regained memories of his past. Photographs and descriptions were circulated widely, yet the enigma deepened. Unlike typical cases of lost or abducted children, there was no apparent trauma, no signs of captivity, only an unyielding void where a past should have been. What truly unsettled those who followed the story was the boy's behavior. At times, he exhibited knowledge and skills seemingly beyond his years, unexplained familiarity with ancient customs, obscure symbols, and historical events far removed from his immediate surroundings. Was it intuition, or something more mysterious? Psychologists suggested several possibilities. Some believed the boy suffered from dissociative amnesia, a rare psychological response to trauma in which memories are inaccessible. Others speculated he might have come from a remote or isolated community, one whose language and customs were unknown to modern society. Yet none of these explanations fully accounted for the boy's extraordinary case. Over the decades, the Nameless Boy's story faded from public attention, yet it resurfaced periodically, fueled by whispers and renewed investigations. Some researchers proposed even more extraordinary hypotheses. Could he have been a child displaced by the chaos of war, somehow separated and transported without record? Or might he represent a case of cryptomnesia, where forgotten knowledge surfaces from the subconscious, creating the illusion of lost identity? More speculative voices even posited that the boy's origins were not earthly at all, that his unfamiliar language and knowledge hinted at something otherworldly or interdimensional. These theories remain unproven, of course, yet the intrigue they inspire speaks to a deeper human fascination, the question of identity, memory, and what defines us as individuals. If a person loses all recollection of their past, do they become someone new? Or does the past linger invisibly, shaping them in unseen ways? In examining this mystery, we are reminded of the fragile nature of memory and the complexities of human consciousness. The Nameless Boy's story challenges our assumptions about belonging and history, forcing us to consider what it truly means to be known or unknown. Today, the whereabouts and fate of the Nameless Boy remain unknown, his true identity still a puzzle locked away in the vault of time. His case invites us to ponder the many ways in which history, memory, and mystery intertwine, how some stories resist closure, lingering instead as open questions for us to explore. And so, as the sands of time continue to shift around this nameless child's legacy, we find ourselves left with a simple, profound question. What truths remain hidden beneath the surface, waiting for discovery in the silent spaces of forgotten lives? As the whispers of lost identities and vanished forces fade into the past, our journey now turns to the rugged coastlines and dense forests of early America, where the faint echoes of a vanished colony linger like shadows in the mist. Known to history as the Roanoke Colony, this settlement was among the first English attempts to establish a foothold in the New World. Yet, what was meant to be a new beginning instead became one of history's most enduring enigmas. Picture the late 16th century, the age of exploration, when the seas were alive with the promise of discovery and conquest. In 1587, a group of nearly 120 settlers arrived on Roanoke Island, off the coast of what is now North Carolina. Led by John White, they set about building a community, planting crops, and forging relations with local indigenous tribes. But soon after White returned to England for supplies, the colony was left isolated, waiting for his return. When White finally came back 3 years later, he found the settlement abandoned, homes dismantled, the colony erased without a trace of struggle or disaster. The only clue was a single word carved into a tree, Croatoan. Historians have long debated what happened next. Did the settlers assimilate with nearby Croatoan tribes, blending into indigenous communities and leaving behind their English roots? Was the colony destroyed by hostile forces or disease? Or did they perish from starvation or natural disaster? Despite archaeological efforts and decades of research, definitive answers remain elusive. The mystery deepens when we consider the lack of typical signs of attack or hasty departure. No mass graves or battle remnants were discovered. Instead, subtle hints, scattered artifacts, changed pottery styles, and oral histories suggest something more complex than a simple tragedy. Some researchers argue that the Roanoke settlers may have moved inland, attempting to survive in unfamiliar terrain, perhaps merging with native populations in secret. Others propose that environmental factors, hurricanes, droughts, or crop failures, may have forced a slow dispersal, leaving few traces behind. Yet, questions remain. Why was the cryptic word Croatoan left behind? Was it a signpost pointing to a new home, or a desperate message from people on the brink? And how did the interactions between settlers and indigenous peoples influence the fate of this colony? More speculative theories have emerged over time, adding layers of intrigue to the tale. Some suggest that Roanoke settlers might have been victims of supernatural forces, curses, or even time anomalies, ideas that, while captivating, rest firmly outside the realm of accepted history. Others have proposed secret escapes or relocations to unknown regions, theories fueled by local legends and folklore. Archaeologists continue to uncover fragments of the puzzle, shards of European ceramics deep in Native American sites, faint traces of 16th century settlements far from the coast, and signs of cultural blending. But these discoveries raise as many questions as they answer, painting a picture of a complex, intertwined history that defies easy explanation. The story of Roanoke is not just about disappearance, it is about survival, adaptation, and the collision of worlds. It speaks to the fragile nature of human endeavor in an unforgiving land, and the enduring mystery of what lies hidden beneath layers of earth and time. As we reflect on the vanished colony, we are reminded that some histories resist closure. They live on in whispered clues and unspoken questions, challenging us to look beyond the surface and consider the unseen forces that shape our past. What truly happened to the Roanoke settlers? Where did they go, and what legacy did they leave behind? These questions remain open, inviting us to explore, to imagine, and to continue the search for answers buried deep in America's earliest chapters. Continuing our journey through the shadows of history's most perplexing enigmas, we now turn to an artifact as beguiling as it is baffling, a spiral disc etched with symbols that have eluded understanding for over a century. This mysterious object, discovered deep beneath the ruins of a Minoan palace on the island of Crete, offers a tantalizing glimpse into an ancient civilization that continues to whisper secrets from the past. The artifact, known simply as the Phaistos disc, is a clay disc roughly 16 centimeters in diameter, covered on both sides with a series of stamped symbols arranged in a spiral pattern. These symbols, ranging from human figures and animals to tools and plants, are unlike any writing system previously known. Each impression appears meticulously pressed into the soft clay before firing, suggesting a form of movable type centuries ahead of its time. Found in 1908 during excavations at the Minoan Palace of Phaistos, the disc immediately captured the imagination of archaeologists and linguists. Its discovery came amidst a rich trove of Minoan artifacts, yet none bore markings quite like these. The disc's purpose remains a mystery. Was it a religious text, a magical charm, a game board, or a record of some kind? Its origin and meaning defy easy classification. The Minoan civilization itself flourished around 2000 to 1400 BCE, known for its vibrant art, elaborate architecture, and complex social structures. Despite extensive study, much of their written language, Linear A, remains undeciphered, and the Phaistos disc only deepens the puzzle. It is unlike Linear A and Linear B scripts found elsewhere on Crete, further isolating it in the linguistic landscape. Scholars have pored over the disk for decades, attempting to decode the spiral script using comparisons to known languages, statistical analyses, and linguistic patterns. Some have proposed it represents a syllabary or a logographic system. Others argue it may be a proto-writing form, a symbolic system not tied to spoken language. Yet no consensus has emerged. The limited number of symbols, only 45 unique signs repeated 241 times, offers too few clues to definitively crack the code. Without a bilingual text or related inscriptions, the disk remains an island of enigma in the sea of ancient texts. This persistent silence has opened the door to more speculative theories. Some researchers suggest the disk might be a prayer or hymn, its symbols invoking divine powers or recounting mythic tales. Others hypothesize it could be a calendar or astronomical chart, encoding celestial observations. A few even venture that it represents an early attempt at printing technology, a revolutionary step lost to time. More fringe ideas propose that the disk's symbols encode secret knowledge, perhaps linked to the origins of language or lost civilizations predating the Minoans. While these theories often stretch beyond conventional archaeology, they highlight how the disk continues to inspire awe and curiosity. Interestingly, the Phaistos disk's spiral format itself is unusual. Spirals have long been potent symbols in ancient cultures, representing cycles of life, nature, or cosmic order. Could the disk's layout hold symbolic significance, emphasizing continuity or sacred geometry? This dimension adds another layer to its mystery. The disk also invites us to ponder broader questions about communication and human expression. How did ancient peoples conceive of writing, and what purposes did it serve beyond mere record-keeping? Might the disk represent a ritualistic or artistic tradition lost to time? And how many other artifacts like it lie buried, waiting to challenge our assumptions? As we examine this small clay disk, we are reminded of the vast gulf between our modern understanding and the worlds of the distant past. The Phaistos disk stands as a silent sentinel, guarding stories we have yet to decipher, voices we have yet to hear. In the end, the mystery of the spiral disk remains unsolved, its secrets still locked within the patterns impressed thousands of years ago. It beckons us to look closer, to question, and to wonder what hidden truths might yet emerge, waiting patiently beneath the sands of Crete, in the labyrinth of history itself. Beneath the shadowed walls of one of England's most iconic landmarks, a mystery lingers, quiet, elusive, and wrapped in layers of royal intrigue and unanswered questions. As our journey through history's unsolved enigmas continues, we now turn to the story of the princes in the tower, a tale of vanished heirs, silent halls, and a disappearance that has perplexed historians for over 5 centuries. The Tower of London, an imposing fortress on the banks of the Thames, has served as a royal palace, prison, and symbol of power since the 11th century. Its ancient stones have witnessed coronations and executions, political machinations, and whispered secrets. Among its most haunting stories is that of Edward V and his younger brother Richard, Duke of York, 2 boys who entered the tower as princes but were never seen again. In 1483, following the sudden death of their father, King Edward IV, the boys were placed in the tower under the guardianship of their uncle, Richard, Duke of Gloucester. What should have been a brief stay before Edward's coronation became a grim turning point. Within months, the boys disappeared from public view, sparking rumors and suspicions that have endured through the centuries. Officially, the fate of the young princes remains a mystery. No records definitively state what happened to them. No bodies were ever conclusively identified. Their absence created a power vacuum, which Richard declared by Parliament as his own right to the throne, ascending as King Richard III. Was their disappearance the calculated act of a ruthless uncle, or part of a larger political conspiracy? Or did other forces intervene? Historical accounts written soon after the event were often biased, reflecting the turbulent politics of the Wars of the Roses. Some chronicles allege that Richard III ordered their murder to secure his reign. Others propose that Henry Tudor, who defeated Richard III in 1485 and founded the Tudor dynasty, may have orchestrated the prince's disappearance to legitimize his own claim, but no contemporary evidence confirms these theories. Over the centuries, the mystery deepened with occasional discoveries. In 1674, workmen renovating the tower uncovered 2 small skeletons buried beneath a staircase, believed by some to be the remains of the princes. These bones were interred in Westminster Abbey, yet no modern forensic analysis was performed to verify their identity. Subsequent archaeological efforts have failed to uncover additional clues. The silence surrounding the boy's fate has invited a wide range of speculation, some grounded in historical research, others more imaginative. Could the princes have been quietly smuggled out of the tower, surviving in secret? This theory, while less accepted, raises questions about who might have helped them and why such an event would remain hidden. More fantastical ideas include the possibility of clandestine imprisonment, secret escape tunnels beneath the fortress, or even supernatural interference, a spectral presence said to haunt the tower's halls, embodying the restless spirits of the lost children. The mystery also reflects the fraught nature of power and legitimacy in late medieval England. The prince's disappearance symbolizes not just a personal tragedy, but the ruthless calculus of political ambition. Their story is a reminder of how history is often shaped by those who write it, and how truths can be obscured by silence and time. In recent decades, scientific advances such as DNA testing have reignited interest in the case. The exhumation and testing of remains thought to be related to the royal line have provided tantalizing, though inconclusive, evidence. Yet, without definitive proof, the question remains open. Who were the princes? What happened to them? And what secrets does the tower still conceal? As we peer deeper into this mystery, we confront the unsettling reality that some chapters of history resist closure. The vanished princes remain ghosts not only of the past, but of the unknown. Their story a silent testament to the shadows that linger behind power's facade. What truths might still lie buried beneath the tower's ancient stones? And how many more secrets await discovery, hidden by time and silence? The mystery of the princes endures, inviting us to keep searching, questioning, and imagining the hidden depths of history's darkest enigmas. From the shadowed halls of the tower and the vanished princes, our journey now moves to a landscape that has captured the human imagination for millennia, an ancient circle of stones standing stoic against the passage of time. This is Stonehenge, a monument of silent grandeur on the windswept plains of southern England, where earth and sky converge in a riddle carved by the hands of prehistoric peoples. Here, amid the whispering grasses and shifting shadows, the enigma of Stonehenge continues to beckon us, its secrets half hidden beneath layers of earth and myth. Stonehenge's massive sarsen stones and delicate bluestones form a complex pattern of circles and horseshoes, arranged with precision that has baffled archaeologists and engineers alike. The monument's construction, beginning around 3000 BCE and continuing over centuries, represents a feat of ingenuity and determination. But why was Stonehenge built? And how did ancient people, without modern technology, transport and erect stones weighing up to 25 tons, some coming from quarries more than 150 miles away? Archaeologists have pieced together much about the monument's timeline and construction phases, revealing a site that evolved in purpose and meaning. Early theories suggested Stonehenge was a burial ground, a temple, or an astronomical observatory aligned with solstices and equinoxes. Indeed, the monument's alignment with the midsummer sunrise and midwinter sunset is striking, hinting at a sophisticated understanding of celestial cycles. Yet these explanations, while compelling, do not answer all questions. The sheer effort required to quarry, transport, and position these stones suggests a significance beyond simple function, perhaps a profound spiritual or communal purpose. What rituals unfolded here? How did the monument shape the lives and beliefs of those who built it? Further mysteries emerge when considering the smaller bluestones, transported from the Paisley Hills in Wales. Why were these particular stones chosen, and what significance did their distant origin hold? Some researchers suggest they were believed to have healing properties or carried spiritual power, making Stonehenge a center not only of astronomical observation, but of ancient medicine and ritual. Intriguingly, the landscape surrounding Stonehenge is dotted with other Neolithic and Bronze Age sites, burial mounds, earthworks, and avenues, indicating that this area was a sacred landscape, a hub of ancient human activity for thousands of years. These connections add layers to the mystery. Was Stonehenge a focal point of a much larger ritual complex? How did it interact with other sites, and what stories do they collectively tell? As scientific techniques advance, new discoveries complicate our understanding. Ground-penetrating radar and 3D mapping reveal hidden features beneath the surface, ditches, pits, and buried stones, suggesting that Stonehenge's visible structure is just the tip of a submerged iceberg. These findings raise questions about what else lies beneath the earth, waiting to reshape our knowledge of prehistoric life. Beyond archaeology, Stonehenge has inspired a rich tapestry of folklore and speculative theories. Some have proposed extraterrestrial intervention, imagining that the monument's precise geometry and massive stones defy human capability. Others speculate about lost technologies, ancient advanced knowledge, or spiritual energies tied to the stones themselves. While these fringe ideas remain outside mainstream scholarship, they reflect the monument's enduring power to provoke wonder and curiosity. What is it about Stonehenge that continues to captivate the imagination across millennia? Why does this silent circle stir something primal in us, drawing seekers of truth and mystery alike? Stonehenge stands not only as a testament to human ingenuity, but as a symbol of the unknown, a reminder that some mysteries resist full explanation. It invites us to consider the complexity of ancient societies, their beliefs, and their connection to the cosmos. It challenges us to look beyond the surface and embrace the uncertainty that defines the pursuit of knowledge. As the sun rises and sets over those ancient stones, casting long shadows across the Salisbury Plain, one can almost hear the echoes of long-forgotten ceremonies, the footsteps of those who labored and prayed here. The enigma endures, a riddle carved in stone, waiting patiently for the next chapter in its story to be uncovered. What truths lie beneath the stones? What voices have been lost to time? And how much more is there to discover in the silent language of this ancient monument? Stonehenge remains a doorway to the past, inviting us to step through and explore the depths of human history and mystery. Continuing from the enigmatic stones of ancient Stonehenge, our journey now takes us across the vast expanse of the Atlantic Ocean, to a region shrouded in both natural beauty and enduring mystery, the Bermuda Triangle. Here, in the shimmering turquoise waters and endless sky, lies a story of vanished aircraft and unanswered questions that have captured imaginations for decades. Among the most haunting of these tales is that of Flight 19, a squadron of U.S. Navy bombers that disappeared without a trace in December 1945, leaving behind a legacy of speculation, sorrow, and unresolved mystery. Flight 19 consisted of 5 Grumman TBM Avenger torpedo bombers, each crewed by experienced pilots and airmen returning from training exercises at the end of World War II. Their mission was routine, a navigational training flight over the Atlantic, departing from the Naval Air Station in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. But what began as a standard operation soon became an enigma that would baffle investigators and fuel countless theories. As Flight 19 took off on that December afternoon, the weather was fair, the sea calm, and the sun shining. The squadron was to perform bombing runs over a designated target near the Bahamas, then return to base. Yet, as the flight progressed, radio transmissions revealed growing confusion. The pilots reported navigational equipment malfunctions, disorientation, and uncertainty about their exact position. Some believed they were over the Florida Keys, when in reality, they had veered far off course into the open ocean. Despite efforts by the flight leader and support from ground control, the squadron lost contact and was never seen again. A massive search and rescue operation ensued, involving ships and aircraft combing thousands of square miles of ocean. Tragically, a PBM Mariner flying boat sent to aid the missing planes also vanished, deepening the mystery. The official Navy investigation concluded that Flight 19 likely ran out of fuel and crashed into the sea. Yet, no wreckage, debris, or bodies were ever recovered, a fact that has puzzled experts and inspired a multitude of alternative explanations. One explanation points to human error and the inherent dangers of early aviation navigation. The complex interplay of magnetic anomalies in the region might have interfered with compasses and instruments, leading the pilots astray. The Atlantic currents and unpredictable weather could have further obscured their location, making rescue efforts futile. Yet this logical framework leaves many questions unanswered. Why did seasoned aviators, trained in navigation and survival, become so disoriented? How could 5 planes vanish so completely in an area that, while vast, was heavily trafficked? And what about the mysterious failure of radio communications at critical moments? The Bermuda Triangle itself, a loosely defined region roughly bounded by Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, has become synonymous with inexplicable disappearances of ships and aircraft. Over the years, this stretch of ocean has been the subject of intense scrutiny, folklore, and speculation. Could there be environmental or geological factors unique to the area? Methane hydrate eruptions from the seabed have been proposed as a cause for sudden loss of buoyancy in vessels. Magnetic anomalies might disrupt compasses and electronics. Sudden, severe storms could appear without warning. Beyond natural explanations, the Bermuda Triangle has attracted more speculative theories. Some suggest that alien abductions, time warps, or underwater bases might be responsible for the disappearances. Others speak of ancient civilizations or mystical forces tied to the ocean's depths. While these ideas remain outside mainstream science, they underscore the deep human desire to understand the unknown. Flight 19's disappearance is emblematic of the Bermuda Triangle's allure, a blend of fact, mystery, and imagination. It invites us to consider the limits of human knowledge and the vastness of the natural world. How much do we truly understand about the ocean's depths and the skies above? What secrets might remain hidden beneath the waves, concealed by darkness and time? As we reflect on Flight 19, we are reminded of the fragility of human endeavors against the backdrop of nature's immensity. The story lingers not only as a record of loss, but as a prompt to look deeper, question more, and accept that some mysteries resist resolution. So what lies beneath the Bermuda shadows? Are there answers buried in the depths, or is the truth forever swept away by the tides? The enigma of Flight 19 remains open, inviting us to peer into the unknown and wonder what remains just beyond our grasp. As the vastness of the Atlantic fades behind us, and the sun dips low beyond the horizon, we find ourselves transported to a stark, remote landscape where the night sky comes alive in ways that defy easy explanation. Deep within the Arctic Circle, nestled in a quiet valley of Norway, lies Hessdalen, a place renowned not for its beauty alone, but for the eerie, inexplicable lights that have danced across its skies for decades. The Hessdalen phenomenon is a modern mystery, a celestial puzzle blending natural wonder and scientific curiosity, and it beckons us into a realm where observation meets enigma. Hessdalen Valley is a sparsely populated, rugged stretch of land, framed by steep mountains and cloaked in dense forest. Its isolation lends an otherworldly stillness, broken only by the faint hum of a small village and the whisper of Arctic winds. Yet it is after dark, when this tranquil place transforms into a stage for a spectacle that has fascinated locals, scientists, and visitors alike since the early 1980s. Strange, glowing orbs and beams of light that appear, vanish, and sometimes move with a deliberate, almost intelligent grace. Witnesses describe these lights as ranging in color from white and yellow to red and blue, varying in size from small orbs to brilliant flashes that illuminate the night. Sometimes they hover silently, other times they dart swiftly across the sky or even seem to interact with the terrain below. Photographs and video recordings, though often grainy, provide compelling glimpses of the phenomenon's ethereal quality. Scientific interest in Hessdalen began in earnest after reports surged in 1981. Researchers established monitoring stations, employing radar, electromagnetic sensors, and spectrometers to capture and analyze data. These instruments confirmed that the lights are real physical events, not illusions or optical tricks. Yet, despite extensive study, a definitive explanation remains elusive. Various scientific hypotheses have been proposed. One suggests the lights result from natural plasma formations created when ionized gases interact with the valley's unique geological makeup, rich in iron and other minerals, and the atmospheric conditions that prevail. Another theory attributes the phenomenon to piezoelectric effects, where mechanical stress in quartz-bearing rocks produces electrical charges and, consequently, light emissions. However, these explanations do not fully account for the light's unpredictable behavior or the wide range of their observed characteristics. Why do the lights appear sporadically, sometimes over days or weeks, only to vanish for months or even years? What causes their apparent intelligence, maneuvering around obstacles, changing colors, or pulsing rhythmically? Could there be variables yet undiscovered that influence their manifestation? Adding to the mystery, some eyewitnesses report sounds accompanying the lights, buzzing, humming, or crackling, further complicating the scientific picture. The correlation between electromagnetic disturbances and sightings has been noted, but remains poorly understood. Beyond geology and physics, more speculative interpretations have emerged, though these remain outside the mainstream scientific discourse. Some propose that Hessdalen's lights could be a form of unexplained atmospheric energy, a natural phenomenon akin to ball lightning, but on a larger and more complex scale. Others suggest they might be linked to geomagnetic anomalies, or even rare interactions between the Earth's magnetic field and solar activity. A few have ventured into more extraordinary territory, hypothesizing that the lights could be manifestations of unknown phenomena related to extraterrestrial activity or interdimensional portals. These theories, while intriguing, are often constrained by a lack of verifiable evidence and the challenge of separating anecdote from data. Yet, what unites all these perspectives is the acknowledgement of Hessdalen's persistent mystery. Unlike fleeting reports from other locations, Hessdalen's lights have been systematically observed, measured, and documented over decades, creating one of the most sustained investigations into unexplained aerial phenomena. The village itself has embraced this curiosity, becoming a hub for enthusiasts and scientists worldwide. Annual conferences, field studies, and even tourist visits weave a narrative that is part science, part folklore, and wholly compelling. This intersection of community, science, and mystery adds a human dimension to the enigma, reminding us that the unknown often resides close to home. What does the Hessdalen phenomenon reveal about the limits of our understanding? Does it suggest that even in an age of satellites and sensors, pockets of the natural world remain inscrutable? Or might it be a hint toward phenomena that bridge the known and unknown, challenging our assumptions about physics and perception? As we gaze upward into the Arctic night, the lights continue their silent dance, sometimes pulsing softly, sometimes flaring brightly against the dark canvas. They are reminders that mystery is not always a relic of the distant past, but a living, breathing presence inviting us to observe with wonder and question with humility. The Hessdalen lights, with their elusive glow, encourage us to stay curious, to remain open to discovery, and to acknowledge that some of the most profound enigmas shine quietly, waiting for the next observer to unravel their secrets. What lies beneath their glow, and how much more remains hidden beyond the reach of our instruments and imagination? The night holds its breath, and the mystery persists, flowing gently from the quiet, eerie lights of Hessdalen, where nature's mysteries flicker softly against the Arctic sky. Our journey now turns to a very different, yet equally haunting chapter of human history, a spectacle of movement and madness that took hold of a European town over 5 centuries ago. Known simply as the Dancing Plague of 1518, this bewildering phenomenon invites us to peer into the shadowy space between physical ailment and the human mind, between science and superstition, between history and the unexplained. In the sweltering summer of 1518, in the city of Strasbourg, then part of the Holy Roman Empire, something extraordinary and deeply unsettling occurred. It began with one woman, Frau Trophea, who stepped into the street and began to dance fervently, seemingly without end. Within days, dozens more joined her, caught in what appeared to be an uncontrollable, compulsive frenzy. The streets filled with bodies moving in a relentless, fevered procession, some dancers collapsing from exhaustion, others reportedly dancing until death claimed them. The sheer scale and intensity of this event defy simple understanding. Historical records, preserved in the meticulous chronicles of city officials and physicians of the time, describe a phenomenon that lasted for weeks, spreading from person to person like a contagion. But what was this disease? Was it a form of mass hysteria, a psychological epidemic born from the collective stress of famine, disease, and religious fervor? Or was it something more tangible, a neurological disorder triggered by toxins, or an unknown infectious agent? Medical historians have explored numerous explanations grounded in contemporary science. One widely accepted theory points to ergotism, caused by consuming rye bread contaminated with ergot fungus. Ergot contains chemicals related to LSD, which can induce convulsions, hallucinations, and erratic movements. Could this toxic bread have driven the afflicted into their compulsive dance, a tragic outbreak of poisoning mistaken for madness? Yet ergotism alone may not explain all aspects of the dancing plague. The social context of 16th century Europe, marked by famine, war, and deep religious anxiety, provides fertile ground for psychological explanations. Some scholars suggest a form of mass psychogenic illness, where extreme stress and despair manifest physically, driving groups to shared, involuntary behaviors. The medieval belief in possession and divine punishment likely shaped the way the dancers and their community understood the ordeal. Contemporary accounts also reveal efforts by authorities to cure the dancers by encouraging more dancing, assuming the movement might exhaust and thus end the affliction. They hired musicians and opened dance halls, hoping to channel the epidemic. Yet these measures appeared only to exacerbate the problem, raising questions about the limits of medical knowledge and public health practices in an era before germ theory. Beyond the scientific and social hypotheses, the dancing plague has attracted interpretations that touch on the spiritual and supernatural. Was this an outbreak of demonic possession, as some clerics insisted? Did the dancers become vessels of divine wrath or mystical forces beyond human control? While these explanations lack empirical support, they illuminate how mystery and fear can shape human responses to the inexplicable. Moreover, the dancing plague remains an isolated and puzzling episode in history. Unlike contagious diseases transmitted by pathogens, this outbreak seems rooted in a complex interplay of mind, body, and society. Why did this phenomenon emerge precisely in Strasbourg and not elsewhere? What made this community susceptible to such a dramatic episode of collective movement and suffering? Modern research continues to probe the dancing plague's legacy, examining it through lenses of neurology, psychology, and sociology. The event reminds us of the fragility of human health and the profound ways in which psychological and environmental stressors can manifest physically. It challenges us to consider the boundaries between the known and unknown, between the rational and the mystical. As we watch the shadows of those dancers flicker through the corridors of time, questions remain. Could similar phenomena exist today, hidden beneath layers of diagnosis and explanation? How often do human minds and bodies respond to trauma in ways that defy easy categorization? And what does the dancing plague reveal about our enduring struggle to understand the depths of human experience when science alone cannot fully explain? The mystery endures, an enigmatic dance frozen in history, inviting us to look closer, listen deeper, and accept that some stories may never be fully unraveled. What truths are buried in the steps of those who danced until they fell? The past holds its breath, and we are left to wonder. Flowing from the haunting echoes of the dancing plague, where bodies moved in restless frenzy centuries ago, we now turn our attention to a much quieter place, an ancient settlement on the island of Öland, Sweden, where a grim secret lies buried beneath layers of earth and time. Here, at a site known today as Sandby, archaeologists uncovered what can only be described as a fortress of bones. A chilling tableau that reveals a massacre frozen in history, its causes and culprits still shrouded in mystery. Sandby is not just any archaeological site. This Iron Age ring fort, dating back to around the 5th century AD, sits perched on a gentle hill overlooking the Baltic Sea, surrounded by dense forest and rugged coastline. Its thick stone walls, roughly 60 meters in diameter, once enclosed a small community, a place where families lived, worked, and sought refuge from the turmoil of their time. For centuries, this fort lay forgotten, swallowed by the soil, until modern excavations began revealing a scene unlike any other. Inside Sandby's protective walls, archaeologists discovered the remains of dozens of individuals, men, women, and children, who met violent ends. Unlike many burial sites where bones are respectfully arranged, here the skeletons were scattered, many still clutching weapons or household objects. Some showed signs of fatal injuries, fractured skulls, arrow wounds, or blunt force trauma. The inhabitants had clearly been caught unprepared, overwhelmed in an attack that left no survivors. This grim snapshot is more than a simple case of ancient warfare. The arrangement of the bodies and the artifacts suggest a sudden and brutal massacre rather than a prolonged siege or battle. Many victims appeared to have been killed inside their homes or common spaces, implying a swift assault that left no chance for escape. The fort's gates show no signs of violent entry, raising questions about how the assailants gained access. What might have driven such a devastating attack? Historical records from the Iron Age are sparse, and Sandby itself leaves no inscriptions or clues explaining its fate. Theories abound. Some scholars suggest intertribal conflict or raiding parties common to the turbulent migration period in northern Europe. Could this have been a targeted raid by rival groups vying for control or resources? Or was it a punitive strike against a defiant community? Adding complexity to the story are puzzling finds, objects that hint at connections beyond the immediate region. Some artifacts suggest trade or cultural exchange with distant peoples, raising the possibility that Sandby Borg was more than a simple farming settlement. Could its destruction have been linked to larger political shifts or emerging powers in the Baltic Sea region? Moreover, forensic analysis reveals intriguing details about the victims themselves. The population within the fort appears diverse, with variations in age, sex, and even diet, suggesting a community with complex social dynamics. The presence of children and elderly among the dead underscores the tragedy's indiscriminate nature. Yet, despite the violence, no evidence points to ritualistic killings or sacrifice, which might have hinted at religious motives. The absence of survivors or contemporaneous accounts leaves us dependent on the archaeological record, where silence often speaks louder than words. The bones and artifacts whisper of fear and desperation, but not of the attacker's identity or motivations. Could it have been an internal betrayal, a faction within the community turning violently against their own, or a surprise strike by outsiders wielding superior force? In recent years, advances in technology have brought new insights to Sandby Borg. DNA analysis aims to uncover familial relationships, while isotope studies investigate where the individuals originated, offering tantalizing glimpses into mobility and connections in Iron Age Scandinavia. Yet, each answer uncovers new questions. How interconnected were these communities? And what political or cultural upheavals shaped their fates? Some more speculative ideas enter the discourse as well, though without strong evidence. Was the massacre linked to wider migrations, invasions, or climate changes disrupting the balance of power? Could external factors like disease or famine have exacerbated tensions, leading to violence? And what might the fort's destruction reveal about human resilience and vulnerability in an unpredictable world? The story of Sandby Borg reminds us that history often leaves behind fragments, incomplete and enigmatic. Unlike written chronicles, these bones tell a tale without words, one that must be pieced together through careful study and imagination. They evoke not only death and destruction, but also the lives that once animated this small fortress. Families raising children, farmers tending fields, neighbors gathering beneath stone walls. What remains hidden beneath the earth? What secrets might still lie buried, waiting for future discoveries to shed light on this violent chapter? Sandby Borg stands as a somber testament to a past where peace was fragile and fate uncertain, a reminder that beneath the surface of history, mysteries endure. As we continue to explore, we are invited to listen closely to these silent witnesses, to weigh the evidence with care, and to acknowledge that some stories are still unfolding, wrapped in shadows and waiting patiently for the light of understanding. As the echoes of ancient violence fade beneath the soil of Sandby Borg, our journey leads us now from the silent bones of a forgotten massacre to an enigma etched not in stone or parchment, but in metal, an artifact unlike any other discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls. Known as the Copper Scroll, this mysterious relic has puzzled historians, archaeologists, and treasure hunters alike since its discovery in 1952, beckoning us with promises of hidden wealth and secrets lost to time. Unlike the fragile parchment scrolls written in ink, the Copper Scroll is fashioned from thin sheets of metal, copper mixed with about 1% tin, etched with cryptic inscriptions that resist easy reading. Its surface is worn, the edges corroded by centuries underground. Yet the words it bears are remarkably durable, preserving a list that reads more like a treasure map than a religious manuscript. Unlike other scrolls that reveal spiritual teachings or biblical texts, the Copper Scroll catalogs a staggering inventory of gold, silver, vessels, and precious artifacts, hidden away in caves, buried beneath ancient temples, or concealed within underground cisterns scattered across the region. The text of the Copper Scroll is divided into a series of locations, each accompanied by cryptic descriptions and sometimes measured distances, suggesting a systematic plan to safeguard immense wealth. The total value described is almost fantastical. Millions of silver and gold coins, priceless treasures supposedly hidden during a time of upheaval, possibly around the 1st century CE. The treasure, if real, could rewrite the history of the region, revealing the wealth and sophistication of the communities that inhabited Judea in the tumultuous years before and after the destruction of the Second Temple. Yet, despite decades of searches and scholarly debate, the Copper Scroll's treasure has never been conclusively found. The scroll itself raises as many questions as it answers. Was this inventory an actual list, used by a temple priest or wealthy sect to hide valuables during Roman invasions? Or is it symbolic, a coded message, or even a literary device? The locations mentioned in the scroll are vague, often using ancient landmarks that may no longer exist or have changed names beyond recognition. One of the scroll's perplexing features is its language and style, written in a distinct Hebrew script that differs from the other Dead Sea Scrolls, suggesting a separate origin or purpose. This has led some experts to speculate that the Copper Scroll was created by a specialized group, perhaps connected to the Essenes, a sect known for their meticulous records and ascetic lifestyle, or alternatively by temple authorities safeguarding their wealth from external threats. Over the years, numerous expeditions have attempted to locate the treasure described on the Copper Scroll. Some findings, artifacts, and caches of coins have sparked hope, but no major discovery has matched the scroll's lavish inventory. Many scholars caution that the descriptions may be exaggerated or even allegorical. The absence of concrete evidence challenges the assumption that the Copper Scroll is a practical treasure map. Instead, it may serve as a spiritual or political statement, a cryptic testament to a vanished era's fears and hopes. Adding to the intrigue are theories that stretch beyond conventional archaeology. Some suggest that the treasures could be linked to the legendary temple treasures, golden vessels and sacred objects described in biblical texts and lost after the Roman conquest. Could the Copper Scroll be the final key to locating the Ark of the Covenant or other artifacts shrouded in myth and religious reverence? While compelling, such hypotheses remain speculative, lacking firm archaeological backing. Other interpretations propose the scroll's purpose as protective rather than practical, concealed knowledge meant to deter thieves or invaders through confusion and mystery. The copper medium itself implies a desire for permanence, an artifact designed to endure where papyrus and parchment might perish. Was the scroll a safeguard against time, a message to future generations that such treasures once existed? The environmental and political upheavals in the region further complicate the mystery. Earthquakes, wars, and centuries of human settlement have altered landscapes dramatically, burying or destroying landmarks mentioned in the text. How much of the Copper Scroll's treasure, if it ever existed, remains undiscovered beneath layers of earth or lost forever to history? Perhaps the greatest enigma lies not in the treasure itself, but in the scroll's very existence, a metal testament to human anxiety in a world fraught with danger and change. It invites us to imagine a society desperate to protect its heritage, resorting to cryptic records and hidden caches to preserve its legacy. The Copper Scroll, with its blend of practicality and mystery, embodies the tension between what is known and what remains just out of reach. As we reflect on the enduring allure of the Copper Scroll, we are reminded of the power of objects to connect us with the past in unexpected ways. This ancient treasure map in metal challenges us to question how history is recorded, preserved, and ultimately understood. What stories lie buried alongside the treasures it promises? And what secrets remain locked away, waiting for a future hand to decipher their code? The Copper Scroll remains an open puzzle, a whisper from antiquity that continues to call out across the centuries. Its secrets are not easily claimed, and the quest to unlock them invites us to look deeper, not just for gold and silver, but for understanding of a world where mystery and reality intertwine. What lies beneath the desert sands may yet surprise us, if only we know where and how to look. As the sands of history shift from ancient treasures and lost armies, our journey now drifts across oceans and centuries to a far more enigmatic and peculiar phenomenon, an unusual vessel that reportedly washed ashore in Japan in the early 19th century. Known as the Utsuro Bune, or Hollow Ship, this strange craft has stirred the curiosity of historians, folklorists, and UFO enthusiasts alike. Its story, preserved through coastal legends and illustrated manuscripts, invites us into a world where the line between fact and folklore blurs, and where the mysteries of the sea might conceal more than just shipwrecks and storms. In the year 1803, somewhere along the eastern shores of Japan's Hitachi province, fishermen discovered a peculiar object bobbing near the water's edge. Unlike the wooden fishing boats familiar to the local fishermen, this vessel was described as circular, about 3 meters in diameter, constructed with red lacquered wood and fitted with windows made of glass or crystal. The craftsmanship seemed unfamiliar, even otherworldly, with metal fittings that did not resemble any known Japanese shipbuilding tradition of the period. Inside this curious craft was a woman, alone, whose appearance was as mysterious as her vessel. She was said to be about 1.5 meters tall, dressed in strange, flowing clothes made from unfamiliar materials, with pale skin and red hair, features unusual for the local population. She carried with her a box or small chest, which she guarded closely, refusing to reveal its contents to the fishermen who found her. Though unable to communicate in any known language, the woman's demeanor was said to be calm and composed, yet detached, as if caught between worlds. The fishermen, unsure of what to make of this strange visitor, reported their discovery to local authorities, and the story was recorded in various Edo period manuscripts and scrolls, including the Utsuro Bune Emaki, an illustrated account of the event. These documents provide detailed depictions of the vessel's shape and design, as well as the mysterious woman and her guarded chest. Yet beyond these images and descriptions, the true origin and nature of the Utsuro Bune remain elusive. Several explanations have been proposed over the centuries. Some scholars suggest the vessel was a form of experimental or foreign craft, perhaps a fishing boat or lifeboat from a distant land, damaged or lost at sea. Given Japan's relative isolation during the Edo period, contact with foreign vessels was rare but not impossible, leading to speculation that the Utsuro Bune might have been a foreign refugee or castaway arriving on unknown shores. But this raises questions about the unusual design of the craft and the woman's unfamiliar appearance and language. Others have speculated that the story could be an early record of a maritime encounter with an unknown phenomenon, perhaps a precursor to modern UFO sightings. The round, hollow shape of the boat, its unusual construction materials, and the mysterious occupant have fueled theories that the Utsuro Bune was not of this world, but rather a vessel of extraterrestrial origin. Could this be one of the earliest documented alien encounters at sea, recorded in an age before such concepts entered popular imagination? Folklore experts consider the possibility that the tale might be a composite of maritime legends, symbolic storytelling, or warnings passed down through generations. Japan's coastal communities have a rich tradition of mythic tales involving mysterious beings and sea creatures, and the Utsuro Bune story might reflect cultural anxieties about the unknown ocean, foreign influence, or spiritual forces. The woman's guarded box could symbolize hidden knowledge, forbidden secrets, or the fragility of human contact with the other. The ambiguity deepens when considering the limited and somewhat inconsistent historical records. The original manuscripts were produced years after the alleged event, and no corroborating official documents from the period exist. Interpretations vary widely depending on the source, with some depictions showing the craft as more elaborate and others more rudimentary. Was this a real event exaggerated over time, a misunderstood encounter, or a creative allegory? Modern investigations into the Utsuro-bune phenomenon continue to grapple with these questions. Scholars analyze the Edo period texts with a critical eye, comparing them with other maritime reports from the era, while skeptics caution against conflating folklore with fact. The lack of physical evidence, no remnants of the craft or the woman have ever been found, complicates efforts to establish a definitive account. Yet, the story persists, captivating imaginations and inspiring new inquiries. The Utsuro-bune narrative invites us to reflect on the ways in which human beings have historically grappled with the unknown, crafting stories that blend observation, myth, and the limits of understanding. Was this woman a real castaway, an emissary from afar, or a symbolic figure representing the ocean's mysteries? Does the vessel hint at forgotten maritime technology, or does it open a door to the cosmic unknown? As we ponder these questions, the sea's vastness remains a reminder of how much lies beyond our reach, beneath its waves, and over its horizon. The story of the hollow ship endures not because it offers clear answers, but because it echoes our enduring fascination with what lies just beyond comprehension. What truths might the ocean still conceal? And how many more tales like the Utsuro-bune await discovery in the depths of history and legend? So, as we continue our voyage through the unexplained, let us hold this story close, a quiet mystery drifting along the waves, urging us to look deeper and wonder what might still wash ashore in the uncharted waters of our collective past. From the enigmatic hollow ship drifting ashore in distant Japan, our path now crosses continents and centuries, drawing us deep into the heart of South America's dense, uncharted jungles, into the story of one man whose name has become synonymous with exploration and mystery, Percy Fawcett. A British geographer and adventurer, Fawcett vanished almost a century ago, leaving behind whispers of a lost civilization and an unresolved enigma that continues to haunt historians and explorers alike. Percy Harrison Fawcett was not merely a man chasing legends. He was a meticulous surveyor, a seasoned soldier, and a fearless explorer whose expeditions into the Amazon basin uncovered maps and clues that challenged conventional understandings of the region. In the early 20th century, Fawcett ventured further than most dared, driven by stories of a city of Z, a supposed ancient metropolis teeming with riches and cultural achievements hidden beneath the jungle's relentless canopy. His belief in this city was fueled by indigenous tales, archaeological hints, and fragments of ancient maps that hinted at a civilization lost to time. In 1925, Fawcett embarked on what would become his final expedition, accompanied by his eldest son and a close friend. Their goal was to penetrate deeper into the Amazon than any previous explorer, seeking tangible proof of the City of Z's existence. But after months of travel into the unyielding wilderness, the trio vanished without a trace. No conclusive evidence of their fate has ever emerged, only fragmentary accounts and conflicting reports from native tribes, rumors of hostile encounters and occasional cryptic artifacts. The jungle, it seems, swallowed them whole. What makes Fawcett's story especially compelling is the blend of fact and legend that has grown around it. His meticulous notes and detailed maps provide a credible framework for understanding the geography and cultures of the region, yet his conviction about the City of Z verges on the obsessive. almost as if he glimpsed something others could not see. Was he driven by the same insatiable curiosity that fuels all great explorers, or was there something else at play, a secret so profound it demanded silence? Modern archaeological discoveries add tantalizing layers to the mystery. Recent findings of vast, complex earthworks, fortified settlements, and sophisticated agricultural systems in the Amazon challenge the long-held belief that the jungle was a pristine wilderness devoid of large-scale ancient civilizations. These revelations hint that the city of Z, or something akin to it, might not be mere myth after all. Could Fawcett have been on the cusp of uncovering a major archaeological breakthrough, only to be lost before his discoveries could be confirmed? Yet, alongside these exciting developments are unanswered questions and contradictions. Some scholars caution that Fawcett's interpretations were colored by colonial biases and romantic notions of lost cities waiting to be found by Western explorers. Others wonder if the dangers of the Amazon, disease, hostile tribes, and unforgiving terrain simply claimed him and his companions before their mission could succeed. Still, stories persist of native peoples recalling encounters with white men in the jungle long after Fawcett's disappearance, fueling speculation about survival or captivity. More speculative theories delve into the realm of the extraordinary. Some propose that Fawcett discovered something not merely archaeological but supernatural or extraterrestrial, an explanation for his sudden disappearance and the silence that followed. Others speculate about secret societies, hidden knowledge, or lost technologies concealed beneath the forest floor. While such ideas remain on the fringe, they underscore the deep human fascination with mysteries that resist easy explanation. What remains indisputable is that the Amazon, with its vastness and impenetrability, has guarded its secrets fiercely. Fawcett's disappearance is emblematic of this power, a reminder that even in the age of satellites and drones, some places defy human understanding. His story invites us to ponder the allure of the unknown, the price of curiosity, and the fragile line between discovery and oblivion. As we trace the shadowy outlines of Fawcett's journey, we encounter a landscape that challenges our assumptions about civilization, survival, and history itself. The dense jungle canopy, alive with unseen creatures and uncharted ruins, beckons still, inviting explorers to follow in Fawcett's footsteps, to seek what lies beyond the map's edge. What truths might still lie buried beneath the tangled roots and shifting shadows of the Amazon? And how many other secrets await the courage, or perhaps the folly, of those who dare to pursue them? The story of Percy Fawcett and the Lost Trail remains open-ended, a mystery etched into the green heart of the world, whispering to us across time and space. Beneath the shifting sands and ancient ruins scattered across the vast expanse of the Roman Empire, countless artifacts whisper fragments of history, each bearing witness to a civilization both grand and enigmatic. Among these relics, one object stands out for its perplexing nature and the persistent questions it raises: the Roman Dodecahedron. At first glance, it is a small, unassuming bronze artifact, roughly the size of a modern grapefruit, shaped into a 12-sided geometric form. Each face is a pentagon, pierced by a circular hole of varying diameter, with tiny knobs perched on each vertex. Yet, despite its precise craftsmanship and widespread discovery, the true purpose of the Roman dodecahedron remains elusive, a puzzle that has intrigued historians, archaeologists, and enthusiasts for centuries. The Roman dodecahedrons have been unearthed across a broad swath of the ancient world, from the rolling hills of Gaul to the rugged terrain of the Danube frontier, and even as far afield as Britain and Germany. Their distribution alone suggests a significance that transcends local utility or mere decoration. Intriguingly, the artifacts date primarily from the 2nd to 4th centuries AD, a time when the Roman Empire was vast, complex, and increasingly diverse. Yet, despite their ubiquity, not a single ancient text, No Roman manual, inscription, or literary reference provides a clue as to their function or symbolism. The craftsmanship of these dodecahedrons reveals a degree of sophistication that hints at purpose. Each of the 12 faces is carefully shaped and perforated with holes of differing sizes, often ranging from approximately 1 to 4 centimeters in diameter. The edges are adorned with small knobs, perhaps serving as grips or as points for alignment. The objects were typically cast in bronze or brass, and while some exhibit signs of wear, none show clear indications of being part of a larger mechanism. This has led to much speculation but little consensus. Scholars have proposed several theories grounded in practical, everyday use. One of the more common hypotheses suggests that the dodecahedrons functioned as measuring devices. Perhaps they were tools for gauging distances or angles used in surveying or military engineering. The varying hole sizes might have served as a primitive form of caliper or template, helping to standardize construction measurements or artillery range estimations. This notion fits with the Roman reputation for engineering prowess and the empire's extensive investment in infrastructure and military campaigns. Others have suggested they were related to textile production. Given that some dodecahedrons were discovered near sites associated with weaving, one theory posits that they were knitting tools, used to create gloves or other complex fabrics with multiple fingers. The holes could have guided thread or yarn, while the knobs helped hold the device steady. This idea, though imaginative, remains difficult to prove, as no direct evidence links the dodecahedrons to textile artifacts or tools. There are also suggestions that the objects had a ceremonial or religious function. The Roman world was rich with symbolism, ritual, and mystery cults, and the dodecahedron's geometric form might have held spiritual significance. 12-sided figures are rare and intricate, possibly representing cosmic or calendrical concepts. Some researchers speculate that they were used as candle holders or ritual objects, their hollow faces casting intriguing shadows during ceremonies. This interpretation invites us to consider a realm beyond the practical, one where meaning intertwines with the mystical and the symbolic. Yet, despite these grounded theories, the absence of direct evidence leaves space for more speculative and fringe ideas. Some have proposed that the dodecahedrons served as astronomical devices, perhaps used to track celestial bodies or align structures according to the stars. The ancient Romans, like many cultures, were keen observers of the sky, and the geometry of the dodecahedron could have corresponded to complex mathematical or cosmological principles. Could these artifacts have been portable instruments for the privileged few, blending science and spirituality? Others have ventured even further, imagining the dodecahedrons as relics of lost knowledge or technology, tools of a forgotten craft, encrypted messages from a secret society, or symbols of esoteric wisdom passed down through select circles. This realm of thought often intersects with the mystique of the Roman Empire itself, a civilization that, while extensively studied, still guards countless mysteries beneath its ruins. What is striking in all these interpretations is how the Roman dodecahedron resists confinement to a single explanation. It challenges our assumptions about the past, forcing us to confront the limitations of our knowledge and the biases of our interpretations. It invites us to slow down, to examine carefully, and to appreciate the complexity of objects that have outlived their creators, carrying meanings that may have shifted, layered over time. When we hold a Roman dodecahedron in our minds, we are not merely looking at a metal artifact, but at a bridge across millennia, a connection to minds and hands that shaped the ancient world with intent we have yet to fully understand. The quiet mystery of its function whispers of lost chapters in human ingenuity, cultural expression, or perhaps the delicate interplay between the two. As we move forward in this journey through the unknown, the Roman dodecahedron stands as a testament to the enduring enigma of history itself, that some truths may lie forever just out of reach, concealed not only by time, but by the very nature of human complexity. What stories could these 12 faces tell if only we had the key? What knowledge once held in bronze might reshape our understanding of the Roman world and ourselves? In the shadows cast by this small, curious object, we find the essence of exploration, not in the certainty of answers, but in the persistent, patient quest to see beyond the obvious. The mystery of the Roman dodecahedron remains open, an invitation to wonder and to continue searching beneath the surface of history's silent artifacts. From the geometric enigma of the Roman dodecahedrons, we now descend from the measured precision of ancient metalwork into the shadowed depths of a different kind of mystery, one that dwells not in the hands of skilled artisans, but in the heart of the earth itself. Deep within remote mountain ranges, concealed beneath layers of rock and time, lies what has come to be known as the Forbidden Cave of Hidden Riches. This cavern, cloaked in secrecy and legend, beckons explorers and dreamers alike to venture beyond the boundaries of the known, promising whispers of lost treasures and ancient secrets long swallowed by darkness. The entrance to this cave is no ordinary gateway. It is often described as a yawning maw carved naturally into sheer cliff faces, sometimes obscured by thick foliage or veiled by cascading waterfalls. Those who have approached speak of a sudden drop into shadows so profound they seem to swallow light whole, a silence so complete it presses upon the ears. The air here carries a chill, weighted with the damp scent of stone and earth, punctuated occasionally by the distant drip of unseen water. It is a place where time feels suspended, the ordinary world left far behind. Historical records, though scarce and fragmented, hint at the cave's importance, stretching back centuries, perhaps millennia. Some ancient manuscripts reference a hidden vault, or temple beneath the mountain, guarded fiercely by both natural perils and human resolve. Local folklore often paints the cave as a repository of unimaginable wealth, piles of gold and precious gems, relics of vanished civilizations, and sacred objects imbued with power. Yet, these tales are invariably entwined with warnings of curses, of guardians both human and supernatural, of the cave itself as a living entity that protects its contents by denying entry or obliterating those who seek to steal its secrets. Archaeological expeditions have ventured into these depths with varying degrees of success, uncovering tantalizing clues but no definitive proof of the fabled riches. Scattered fragments of pottery, weathered inscriptions on stone walls, and traces of ancient fires speak of human presence long ago, perhaps rituals or refuge. In some chambers, faint traces of metalwork glimmer in the flickering light of modern lamps, hinting at once great civilizations. Yet, comprehensive surveys reveal an intricate labyrinth of tunnels and caverns, often unstable and prone to collapse, frustrating deeper exploration. The natural dangers of the cave, treacherous footing, sudden flooding, poisonous gases, have claimed many would-be adventurers, adding layers to the cave's fearsome reputation. What draws explorers again and again to the Forbidden Cave is the tantalizing balance between what is known and what remains hidden. The existence of some form of ancient activity inside the cave is undeniable. The mystery lies in the nature and extent of what lies beyond. Was it a sacred site, a hideout for ancient tribes, or a clandestine treasury? Some propose it was a place of worship, its dark chambers filled with symbols and altars dedicated to gods long forgotten, while others imagine it as a secret vault where spoils of war or wealth were concealed from invaders and rivals. Scientific investigation has shed some light on these possibilities. Modern imaging techniques, such as ground-penetrating radar and 3D mapping, have revealed geometric patterns and structural anomalies that suggest human modification of natural caves. Radiocarbon dating of artifacts found in the cave places human activity in various periods, often overlapping with known historical events that could explain why such a place would be important. But despite the technological advances, the full extent of the cave's contents and significance remains frustratingly beyond reach. Theories that venture beyond the archaeological mainstream have emerged alongside the more grounded studies. Some propose that the cave's riches are not material alone, but also metaphysical, pointing to esoteric knowledge hidden in symbols etched into the rock, knowledge that might unlock forgotten technologies or spiritual insights. Others have suggested the cave could be a point of contact with otherworldly forces or dimensions, an idea that, while speculative, captures the imagination and echoes a long tradition of sacred caves as portals to the unknown. Still, others whisper of a curse or guardian spirits bound to the cave, an ancient force that ensures the sanctity of the space by repelling intruders. These stories, while lacking scientific backing, reflect a universal human motif that some places are meant to remain untouched, their mysteries intact as a testament to the limits of human ambition and understanding. What remains clear is that the forbidden cave of hidden riches occupies a unique place at the intersection of history, myth, and nature. It embodies the allure of the unknown, the profound human desire to uncover what lies beyond the visible and the tangible. In the dim silence of its tunnels, beneath layers of sediment and shadow, the cave holds its secrets close, inviting us to question not only what treasures it might guard, but also what these treasures mean for our understanding of the past. As we stand on the threshold of this subterranean enigma, the question lingers. What truths might still lie buried in the darkness? What stories are etched in the walls, waiting to be deciphered? And what lessons does the cave itself offer about the delicate balance between discovery and respect, between knowledge and mystery? The forbidden cave remains a place where answers elude us, a silent sentinel guarding the boundary between what has been found and what is yet to be revealed. It beckons, quietly but insistently, reminding us that some mysteries endure, not as challenges to be conquered, but as invitations to wonder. Flowing gently from the whispered legends of hidden caves and ancient relics, we turn our attention now to a place where life once flourished and then vanished, leaving behind only silence. Deep within the rugged wilderness of southern Brazil lies the haunting enigma of Verde, a small village that disappeared almost overnight, as if erased from the map and memory of the world. What happened to the people who called this place home? And what secrets linger in the empty fields and abandoned structures that remain? Verde was an unassuming settlement nestled amid dense forests and rolling hills, its modest homes and farmlands a quiet testament to simple, rural life. For years, it existed off the beaten path, shielded from the bustle of nearby towns, its residents living in harmony with the land. Yet sometime in the mid-20th century, the village ceased to be. When investigators and curious neighbors arrived, they found houses intact but eerily empty. No signs of struggle, no hurried departures, just an unsettling stillness that spoke of sudden absence. Personal belongings remained undisturbed, dishes on tables, clothes in closets, tools left where they had been last used. The initial reports sparked a wave of speculation. Natural disaster? Unlikely. There were no records of floods, earthquakes, or fires that could explain a complete evacuation. Disease outbreak? Medical records and regional health data reveal no such epidemic at the time. Forced relocation or conflict? The region was peaceful, and no official records indicate government-mandated removal or violence. So why did an entire village seemingly dissolve into thin air? Official investigations noted the peculiar details. No footprints leading away, no signs of caravans or mass migrations. The surrounding forests showed no trace of hurried passage or makeshift camps. The very animals that had been part of the village ecosystem, livestock, pets, were absent too, as if the entire biome had been withdrawn. Could this be a case of collective disappearance, or something far more mysterious? Theories began to emerge. Some suggested an economic collapse that forced residents to relocate quietly over time, leaving no dramatic scene behind. Yet locals testified that the village had been stable, and abandonment without announcement is unusual for such tight-knit communities. Others proposed that supernatural forces were at play, a curse, a spiritual event, or a parallel dimension pulling the village out of our reality. These ideas, while compelling in narrative, remain unsubstantiated but add layers of cultural intrigue and storytelling. Anthropologists and historians have speculated on environmental factors. Was the village located atop an underground cavern prone to collapse? Could a sudden shift in the land or toxic gas release have caused inhabitants to flee without warning? Geological surveys show some unusual formations nearby, but no conclusive evidence of catastrophic events. Some researchers have pointed to regional folklore involving lost villages swallowed by the forest, drawing parallels to similar cases worldwide where nature reclaims human settlements. Intriguingly, the village's disappearance coincided with a period of significant social change in Brazil. The post-war era saw rural populations moving to cities, driven by industrialization and modernization. Could Hoer Verde's vanishing be a subtle symptom of this broader migration, magnified by isolation and lack of communication? Or does the timing mask deeper, unexplored causes? Local accounts add another dimension. Elderly residents recall strange lights seen above the village in the nights before the disappearance, unusual sounds in the forest, and a palpable shift in atmosphere, uneasy yet unexplainable. Were these natural phenomena, perhaps rare meteorological events or animal behaviors misinterpreted under stress? Or were they early signs of something extraordinary, something science has yet to understand? The physical remains of Hoer Verde, the empty houses, overgrown fields, and silent roads, stand as mute witnesses to a story unfinished. Archaeological interest in the site has been limited, with only sporadic surveys uncovering artifacts consistent with mid-20th century rural life. Yet even these investigations raise more questions. Why were some homes left perfectly preserved, while others show signs of hasty exit? Why are there no records of the residents' subsequent whereabouts? Could the truth lie in a combination of factors, a gradual decline compounded by unexplained phenomena, creating a complex tapestry of disappearance? Might there be archival documents or oral histories yet undiscovered, waiting to shed light on the village's fate? And what lessons might Hoer Verde hold for understanding the fragility of human settlements, the unseen forces that shape them, and the mysteries that resist easy explanation? As we stand amidst the quiet remains of this vanished village, we are invited to reflect on the nature of disappearance itself, how entire communities can slip from the pages of history, leaving traces that puzzle and provoke. The story of Hoer Verde reminds us that some mysteries are not just about what vanished, but about what lingers in absence, the echoes of lives once lived, and the questions that remain, quietly calling us to look closer, to wonder deeper, and to accept that not all truths are readily revealed. What happened to Hoer Verde? The answer remains just beyond reach, a whisper in the wind, and a shadow beneath the trees waiting patiently for discovery. Flowing from the quiet echoes of vanished villages and lost civilizations, our journey now leads us into the grand yet shadowed halls of a royal treasury, a chamber that once held the wealth of a kingdom, now swallowed by the chaos of war and time. This is the story of a treasure room that vanished without a trace, leaving behind tantalizing fragments of history and lingering questions that refuse to be silenced. Imagine an ancient palace, its walls heavy with history, adorned with intricate carvings and gilded decorations. Deep within its fortified heart lay the royal treasure room, a sanctuary for gold, jewels, priceless artifacts, and symbols of power amassed over generations. For centuries, this vault was guarded jealously, known only to the ruling monarch and a select few trusted keepers. Its treasures were not merely material wealth, but emblems of legacy, culture, and authority. The known history paints a vivid picture. During a devastating war that swept across the land, invading forces stormed the palace, toppling rulers and disrupting centuries-old reigns. Amid the chaos, the treasure room disappeared from records, its contents lost to fire, pillage, or perhaps something more enigmatic. Accounts from survivors speak of frantic efforts to hide or protect the treasure. Vault doors sealed, secret compartments concealed, and coded maps passed down in whispers. Yet, as the smoke cleared and armies withdrew, the treasure was nowhere to be found. Historians have traced the movements of armies and analyzed war chronicles, confirming the destruction of the palace and the subsequent disappearance of its riches. Archaeological digs at the site have uncovered fragments of the once grand structure, shattered artifacts, and traces of hurried concealment. Yet no definitive cache of the royal hoard has emerged. Could the treasure have been spirited away before the palace fell, hidden in secret locations beyond the city's ruins? Or was it destroyed, consumed by the flames of war, forever lost? Speculation deepens when considering the nature of the treasure itself. Some documents hint at the presence of religious relics and ancient manuscripts, items not only valuable but sacred, with potential influence on cultural and spiritual identity. If such objects were lost or hidden, their disappearance might have altered the course of history, erasing knowledge or power long guarded. Beyond historical texts, local legends add layers to the mystery. Tales of cursed gold, guardians cloaked in shadow, and underground tunnels filled with traps circulate among villagers and scholars alike. Are these stories mere folklore born from fear and loss, or do they encode truths disguised by metaphor? Could there be hidden chambers beneath the ruins, sealed off and waiting to be rediscovered? Modern technology has attempted to penetrate the enigma. Ground-penetrating radar surveys and remote sensing have mapped subterranean spaces beneath the palace grounds, revealing voids in structures suggestive of hidden vaults. Yet the complexity of the ruins, combined with centuries of decay and urban development, has hindered thorough exploration. Each investigation seems to open new questions. Why were certain areas blocked or altered? What materials or artifacts might remain, shielded by layers of earth and stone? Theories also diverge into more speculative realms. Some propose that the treasure was smuggled out by loyalists who escaped the conflict, perhaps transported to distant lands where it influenced the rise of other powers or vanished into private hands. Others imagine that the treasure includes objects of such rare and mysterious nature that they became the stuff of legend, inspiring secret societies or hidden agendas. Intriguingly, the disappearance of the royal treasure room mirrors a broader pattern seen throughout history: the sudden loss of cultural and material heritage in times of conflict, leaving gaps in our understanding of civilizations. What does the absence of these treasures mean for our grasp of the past? How do lost artifacts shape or distort historical narratives? As we ponder the vanished treasure room, we are reminded that history is as much about what is missing as what is preserved. The silent spaces beneath ruins, the faded inscriptions, and the whispered legends all invite us to consider the mysteries that linger beyond the reach of current knowledge. What truths lie buried in the darkness, waiting for patient eyes and steady hands to uncover them? This story, like many others, is unfinished, a puzzle with pieces scattered through time and memory. The royal treasure room may remain lost, but its shadow continues to beckon, urging us to look deeper, question more, and never stop exploring the past's hidden corners. Flowing from the vanished riches and hidden vaults of forgotten kingdoms, we now turn to a figure shrouded not only in mystery, but in iron, an identity obscured by a mask, a man whose very existence challenges the boundaries between legend, history, and secrecy. The story begins in the shadowed corridors of 17th century France, where power and paranoia intertwined beneath the opulent veneer of the royal court. Here lived a prisoner known only by the iron mask he was forced to wear, a mask that concealed his face from all who saw him, a silent symbol of a secret too dangerous for the world to know. The man in the iron mask has captured imaginations for centuries. Official records speak of a mysterious prisoner held in various French prisons, including the infamous Bastille, under the strictest secrecy. His true identity was guarded fiercely, and his mask, whether made of iron or velvet, as some accounts suggest, served to prevent recognition. But who was this man, and why was he hidden so carefully? Historical documentation provides tantalizing clues but no definitive answers. The prisoner's treatment suggests he was someone of significance, noble birth perhaps, or closely connected to the monarchy. Letters and memoirs from contemporaries hint at a royal secret, a disputed heir, or a disgraced relative whose existence could threaten the throne. Yet official correspondence remains cryptic, often contradictory, leaving historians to piece together fragments of a puzzle with many missing pieces. One prevailing theory proposes that the prisoner was an identical twin of King Louis XIV, hidden away to avoid succession disputes. Another suggests he might have been a political prisoner with damaging knowledge or a former minister who fell from favor. Yet none of these hypotheses fully satisfy the historical record or explain why such secrecy was maintained with such intensity. The mystery deepens with rumors of the prisoner's behavior and conditions. Descriptions paint a picture of isolation, no communication with the outside world, a solitary figure whose voice was stifled along with his face. Could such enforced anonymity indicate a punishment for political threats? Or was it protection for someone whose identity, if revealed, would ignite chaos? Some scholars argue the mask itself is a later embellishment, a myth woven into history by storytellers like Voltaire and later popularized by Alexandre Dumas. Others maintain that the mask was real and emblematic of a broader culture of concealment and control exercised by absolute monarchies. Was the mask a literal object or a metaphor for the hidden machinations of power? Beyond documented history lies folklore and speculation. Tales of secret chambers, hidden letters, and clandestine plots swirl around the legend, feeding imaginations but eluding proof. Was the prisoner involved in espionage, court intrigues, or forbidden romances? Did his confinement reflect a tragic personal story or a deliberate erasure by those who wielded power? Modern investigations have turned to forensic analysis of skeletal remains, examination of prison records, and exploration of political contexts of the era. Yet each discovery seems to raise more questions than it answers. How could a man of such apparent importance vanish so completely from public record? What truths might have been lost to intentional destruction or simple neglect? The man in the iron mask embodies the enigma of identity itself, a question of who we are beneath the facades we wear and how secrets can shape the course of history. His story invites us to consider the delicate balance between public persona and hidden reality, and the lengths to which those in power will go to preserve or suppress the truth. As we linger on the ironclad visage that has fascinated generations, we are left with more than a historical puzzle. We confront the profound mystery of silence and concealment, of a human life wrapped in shadows. What was the true story behind the mask? Does it lie buried in archives yet to be uncovered, or lost forever in the folds of time? In contemplating this figure, we glimpse the enduring human impulse to protect secrets secrets that may reveal uncomfortable truths, challenge authority, or rewrite history. The mystery remains open, inviting us to peer behind the mask and wonder what lies beneath. Flowing from the shadows cast by concealed identities and secret prisons, our journey now takes us deep into the heart of a civilization long swallowed by time, an empire that once thrived with wealth, culture, and power, but whose treasures now lie buried beneath layers of earth and mystery. Picture an ancient metropolis, sprawling and majestic, where towering temples rose against the sky and bustling markets thrived with vibrant life. This was a center of innovation and influence, a civilization whose reach extended far beyond its borders. Yet, centuries ago, it vanished, its people scattered, its riches lost, and its stories left to echo faintly in the annals of history. Archaeologists have uncovered fragments of this empire's past, ruined palaces, ornate artifacts, and intricate murals that hint at a society both sophisticated and enigmatic. The scale of their construction, the artistry of their crafts, all speak to immense wealth and advanced knowledge. But the ultimate fate of their treasures remains elusive. Where did the vast wealth go when the empire crumbled? Were these riches buried to protect them from invaders, lost in cataclysm, or spirited away by survivors? Historical records from neighboring cultures offer glimpses but are often vague or contradictory. Some mention a sudden collapse triggered by natural disasters. Others suggest internal strife or conquest. Yet none explain why the empire's treasures vanished without trace. Could there be undiscovered vaults hidden beneath layers of jungle and soil, preserved by the passage of time and secrecy? Speculation grows as explorers and researchers probe deeper. Some propose that these buried riches are not merely gold or jewels, but knowledge, ancient texts, technological secrets, or religious relics whose significance transcends material value. What might be revealed if these lost treasures were found? How would they reshape our understanding of history and human achievement? Local legends whisper of sacred sites protected by curses or guardians, warning off treasure hunters and curious scholars alike. Are these myths rooted in truth, or protective fabrications designed to preserve what remains? Modern technology, including satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar, has mapped mysterious anomalies beneath the surface, but confirming their nature requires cautious and meticulous investigation. The story of this vanished empire and its buried riches is a reminder of history's fragility, how the rise and fall of civilizations can leave profound gaps in our collective memory. It also illustrates the persistent human fascination with lost wealth and the secrets it may hold. What remains hidden beneath the earth could challenge long-held beliefs or unlock new chapters of our past. As we delve into this ongoing mystery, we must consider not only what was lost, but also why. Was the treasure meant to be found, or destined to remain a secret for eternity? The earth keeps its silence, inviting patient seekers to uncover what time has concealed. What truths might still lie beneath the surface, waiting for discovery? Flowing from tales of hidden treasures and lost civilizations, we now turn to a story that challenges our very understanding of life, memory, and identity, the haunting case of the Pollock sisters. In the quiet suburbs of Edinburgh during the early 20th century, two young sisters, Joanna and Jacqueline Pollock, lived ordinary lives shadowed by an extraordinary mystery. In 1957, the sisters were tragically killed in a car accident. Their futures abruptly ended. Yet in the years that followed, whispers of something unexplainable began to stir, whispers that would ripple far beyond their family, capturing the attention of researchers, skeptics, and those fascinated by the mysteries of the mind. Just a few years after the accident, the Pollock parents found themselves facing an astonishing claim. Two young girls, Jennifer and Jillian, who had been born to a different family, were exhibiting memories, behaviors, and knowledge that closely mirrored those of their lost daughters. These children, seemingly from another lineage, recounted vivid details about Joanna and Jacqueline's lives, details only the Pollocks could have known. They recalled personal memories, favorite toys, and intimate family moments as if they had lived them themselves. What makes this case remarkable is not just the uncanny similarity, but the timing and persistence of these memories. Could this be a coincidence? Or is it possible that something deeper, something unexplained by conventional psychology, was at play? Skeptics have proposed more earthly explanations: the power of suggestion, cryptomnesia, or even subtle coaching by adults aware of the sisters' history. Psychological phenomena can sometimes produce striking effects, blurring the lines between memory and imagination. Yet, even when these factors are accounted for, many find it difficult to dismiss the depth and specificity of the children's recollections. Some researchers have ventured into the realm of reincarnation, viewing the Pollock sisters' case as a rare but compelling example of souls seemingly returning to complete unfinished business. Could consciousness survive beyond death, carrying with it the imprint of past lives? Or do such stories simply arise from the human brain's capacity to weave narratives, filling gaps left by grief and longing? The case also raises profound questions about identity itself. What defines a person? Is it memory, personality, or something more ineffable? When memories transcend the boundaries of biology and birth, how should we interpret such phenomena? Over decades, investigators have gathered testimonies, psychological evaluations, and historical records, yet the mystery endures. Neither fully explainable nor dismissible, the Pollock sisters' story occupies a unique space between science and speculation, fact and folklore. As we contemplate this delicate, enigmatic case, we are invited to explore the boundaries of human experience, where grief, memory, and mystery intersect. Is this an extraordinary glimpse into the possibility of life beyond death, or a poignant reminder of the mysteries locked within our minds? The answers remain elusive, but the story lingers, quiet, persistent, and profoundly human, encouraging us to keep questioning what we think we know about the nature of existence itself. Flowing gently from the echoes of memory and identity, we now turn our attention to an enigma of written language itself. An ancient manuscript that has puzzled scholars, linguists, and cryptographers for over a century. This is the story of the Voynich manuscript, often called the book no one can read. Imagine a thick, leather-bound tome, its pages filled with swirling, indecipherable script and strange illustrations of plants, stars, and curious human figures. Discovered in the early 20th century by rare book dealer Wilfrid Voynich in an Italian monastery, this manuscript immediately captured the imagination of the world. The book's origins, however, reach back much further. Carbon dating places it to the early 15th century, nestled somewhere between the late medieval and early Renaissance periods. What makes the Voynich manuscript so baffling is not merely its age, but its content and script. The writing flows in a consistent, rhythmic pattern, suggesting an actual language or code. Yet despite countless attempts over decades, no one has definitively cracked its meaning. The plants depicted do not match known species, the star charts seem unfamiliar, and the human figures appear otherworldly. Scholars have pored over the manuscript using everything from traditional linguistic analysis to advanced computer algorithms, and still the text remains a locked door. Some propose that it is a sophisticated cipher, a secret code designed to conceal knowledge from all but a select few. Could it be a lost alchemical text, encoded to protect dangerous or revolutionary information? Others argue it might be an elaborate hoax, a brilliant but meaningless creation designed to deceive or entertain. Intriguingly, some researchers suggest that the manuscript may represent an unknown language or even a constructed one, perhaps a private code invented by a single author or group. There are theories linking it to early forms of natural language, or even to mystical traditions, seeking to encode spiritual knowledge beyond the reach of ordinary readers. Modern technology has breathed new life into the investigation. Machine learning and artificial intelligence have analyzed the text for patterns, but even these powerful tools have yet to provide conclusive answers. Are the patterns random, or do they conceal a deeper truth? Is the manuscript a key to lost knowledge, or simply a beautifully crafted puzzle? Despite centuries of study, the Voynich manuscript continues to defy explanation. It stands as a silent challenge to our understanding of language, communication, and history, a reminder that some mysteries persist beyond the reach of science and reason. As we examine this curious relic, we are left with questions that linger in the mind. What secrets might this book no one can read hold? Could unlocking its code change our understanding of the past, or reveal something entirely unexpected about the human capacity for invention and secrecy? The Voynich manuscript remains an open invitation to wonder, urging us to look closer, think deeper, and embrace the enduring mystery that lies within its pages. Drifting from the enigmatic pages of an unreadable manuscript, our journey now leads us into the shadowed realms of history, where power, ambition, and legacy intertwine with mystery. We turn to the elusive resting place of a warrior king whose tomb has defied discovery for centuries. Imagine a land marked by ancient battles and shifting empires, where legends speak of a ruler whose reign reshaped kingdoms and whose death should have left behind a grand monument. Yet, despite the vast wealth and influence he wielded in life, the final resting place of this formidable king remains hidden, buried beneath layers of earth, lost to time and the ravages of history. Historical texts tell us of a warrior king who commanded armies with iron will, expanding his domain through skill and strategy. His name is etched into chronicles, praised and feared alike. We know of his victories, his alliances, and the vast treasures that once adorned his palace and battlefield spoils. Yet the story abruptly halts where it should culminate. The location of his tomb is unknown, sparking questions and fueling intrigue. Archaeologists have scoured the suspected regions, guided by ancient maps, oral traditions, and fragmentary inscriptions. Many sites have been explored, some revealed impressive ruins and artifacts, but none confirmed as the king's burial ground. Why would such a powerful figure be left without a known tomb? Was the tomb hidden intentionally to protect it from grave robbers? Or was it lost to natural disaster or human destruction? Speculation grows in the absence of concrete answers. Some theories propose that the tomb was concealed within secret underground chambers, accessible only to the king's closest confidants. Others suggest that the burial practices of the era may have included cremation or symbolic monuments elsewhere, challenging modern expectations of royal graves. Fringe ideas also emerge. Could the king's tomb lie beneath a now submerged landscape, altered by rising waters or shifting earth? Might ancient curses or spiritual protections have deterred explorers for centuries? Or is it possible that the king's death marked not an end, but a transformation, his memory preserved through legends rather than stone? Recent advances in technology, from ground-penetrating radar to satellite imaging, offer new hope for uncovering hidden chambers or anomalies beneath the surface. Yet even with these tools, the king's tomb remains elusive, a silent testament to the limits of our knowledge. The absence of a known tomb invites us to reflect on the nature of legacy and memory. How do we honor those who shaped history when their physical traces vanish? Does the mystery itself enhance the king's story, drawing us into the unknown with questions that may never be fully answered? As we navigate between fact and speculation, the warrior king's tomb stands as a symbol of history's enigmas, reminding us that some truths remain buried, waiting patiently beneath the sands of time. What might still lie hidden just beyond our reach, ready to reshape our understanding of a forgotten past? Flowing from the shadows of forgotten tombs and whispered legends, we now turn our gaze to a story both peculiar and profound. A tale of children unlike any the world has ever seen, known simply as the Green Children of Woolpit. Nestled in the quiet English village of Woolpit, sometime in the 12th century, an extraordinary event unfolded that would puzzle historians and folklorists for centuries. Two children, brother and sister, appeared mysteriously near the wolf pits from which the village took its name. What set them apart immediately was not just their sudden appearance, but the startling hue of their skin, a pale green, unlike any natural complexion observed. Clad in strange clothing and speaking an unknown tongue, the children were taken in by the villagers. Over time, their skin color faded, but many questions remained. Where had they come from? What explained their unique appearance and language? The boy, weakened, soon died, but the girl survived and began to communicate, describing a strange land called St. Martin's Land, an underground world shrouded in twilight, where the sun never fully rose, inhabited by others with green skin. For centuries, the tale has been recounted with wonder and skepticism. Some believe it to be a legend woven from the fabric of medieval superstition, a folktale meant to explain the unknown in a world still grappling with the mysteries of geography and culture. Others have sought to root the story in natural explanations. Perhaps the green hue resulted from a diet deficient in vitamin B12, or a genetic disorder causing a discoloration of the skin. The unfamiliar language might have been a dialect long lost or misunderstood by the villagers. Yet, the allure of more speculative theories has persisted. Could these children have been visitors from a hidden subterranean world? Some fringe interpretations suggest an extraterrestrial origin, proposing that the Green Children were aliens or part of an ancient civilization now lost to time. This perspective touches on humanity's enduring fascination with the idea that life may exist beyond the Earth's surface. Archaeologists and historians point to the medieval context, an era rife with mystery, folklore, and limited scientific understanding, where unexplained phenomena were often interpreted through the lens of the supernatural. Still, the consistency and detail of the children's account leave us with questions. Why such vivid memories of a subterranean realm? Was it a shared dream, a coping mechanism, or something more? As we reflect on the Green Children of Woolpit, we confront deeper questions about human perception and belief. How do we distinguish between myth and history? When does a story become more than mere legend, becoming a fragment of a forgotten truth? The Green Children challenge us to consider the vastness of the unknown, both beneath our feet and beyond the stars. The mystery remains unresolved, inviting us to ponder the possibility that hidden worlds, strange peoples, or unexplained phenomena might lie just beyond the borders of our understanding. What truths could still be waiting in the twilight realms, quietly calling to us through the ages, as we leave behind the quiet fields of Woolpit, still echoing with whispers of green children and forgotten realms. Our journey into the world's hidden past draws us further west, to a place where the sea itself seems to guard an ancient secret. Just beyond the southern shores of Cornwall, near the windswept cliffs and rugged coastlines of Land's End, lies a stretch of ocean known for its restless beauty. Here, the Celtic Sea crashes endlessly against granite promontories, and the Isles of Scilly rise like lonely sentinels from the water. But for some, this oceanic expanse is more than a scenic horizon. Beneath its waves, they believe, lies a lost land, Lyonesse, a realm swallowed by the sea in a single, cataclysmic night. It's a story as old as the tides, spoken in hushed tones through centuries of Cornish and Breton folklore. A kingdom, they say, once thrived here, fertile, prosperous, filled with golden cities and grand temples. Fields stretched for miles, forests whispered in the wind, and 100 churches rang their bells across the land. But then, without warning, a great storm rose from the sea. The earth trembled, the waves came crashing, and Lyonesse was no more. All that remained were legends and questions. Accounts of Lyonesse appear in texts as early as the medieval period. Some of the earliest written mentions come from chroniclers like Geoffrey of Monmouth, and later Thomas Malory, whose Le Morte d'Arthur links the lost land to Arthurian lore. According to tradition, it was from Lyonesse that the tragic hero Tristan hailed, a prince of a doomed kingdom. Even today, Cornish fishermen speak of sunken forests beneath the sea, and ancient stone walls glimpsed through the water on especially calm days. For centuries, oral tradition kept the memory of Lyonesse alive, passed down like an heirloom through generations. One of the most enduring elements of the tale involves a solitary survivor, a man named Trevelyan, who is said to have outrun the rising waters on a white horse, reaching the Cornish mainland just as the last vestiges of Lyonesse vanished beneath the sea. But is there any truth behind the legend? In recent decades, scientists and historians have begun to examine the tale of Lyonesse through the lens of geology and archaeology. The Isles of Scilly, now numbering about 140 small islands and islets, present a compelling clue. During the last ice age, sea levels were dramatically lower. Vast tracts of land that now lie beneath the sea would have once been exposed. Indeed, evidence shows that as recently as 4,000 years ago, the Isles of Scilly were part of a single contiguous landmass, later fragmented by rising seas and coastal erosion. Peat beds and submerged forests have been found off Cornwall's coast, silent remnants of a landscape that once stood dry. Could these have belonged to a once inhabited land, slowly overtaken by the ocean? It's possible. The geological record reveals a gradual but persistent inundation of land in this region, a process that may well have inspired the oral tradition of a sudden flood. After all, what feels slow to the earth may seem swift to human memory, especially when compounded through generations. But here, the line between science and story begins to blur. If this was simply a case of natural sea level rise, why the persistent narrative of catastrophe, of bells heard beneath the water, of a once mighty civilization swallowed whole? For those who look beyond geology, Lyonesse is more than just a cautionary tale about coastal erosion. Some researchers and alternative historians suggest that the legend might preserve fragments of real history, echoes of a lost society now forgotten by time. Could there have been a flourishing culture along the ancient land bridge between Cornwall and the Scillies? If so, what kind of people lived there? What knowledge or technology might they have possessed? Here, the comparisons to other flood myths become striking. In many cultures, from the deluge of Mesopotamian epics to Plato's tale of Atlantis, we find similar stories. Lands lost to the sea, often in a single night, usually tied to divine judgment or cosmic imbalance. Some have speculated that these may be cultural memories of post-glacial flooding events at the end of the last ice age, preserved in mythic form. Others take it a step further. According to fringe theories, Lyonesse might be a local variant of Atlantis itself, one of many lost lands remembered in folklore across the world. The notion of an advanced pre-flood civilization, destroyed by rising seas or celestial events, has long intrigued theorists who see patterns in the ruins and stories left behind. Though these ideas fall outside the mainstream archaeological consensus, they resonate with a deep human impulse, the desire to connect the past's mysteries, to find meaning in the broken puzzle pieces scattered across time. What remains on the surface, however, are the physical hints that continue to stir curiosity. Divers and sonar surveys have occasionally revealed irregular features on the seabed, lines of stones or depressions that some interpret as foundations or walls. While natural formations can mimic human-made structures, they still fuel speculation. Stories persist of fishermen pulling up pottery shards or strange artifacts in their nets, though few verified examples exist in museums or collections. Even more intriguing are the submerged forests off Cornwall's coast, tree stumps, now fossilized, that once belonged to forests standing tall on dry land. One such forest is visible at low tide near Mounts Bay, its gnarled remnants peeking through the sand. Could such landscapes have once extended into what is now ocean, home to settlements, farms, perhaps entire communities? The sea gives little away. In the end, Lyonesse hovers between two worlds, one geological, the other mythical. Some scholars see in its story a poetic interpretation of very real environmental changes. Others view it as a fragment of ancient history, distorted by time but rooted in truth. And for many, it remains a spiritual idea, a symbol of what is lost, what is hidden, what lies just out of reach. Is Lyonesse simply a tale told to explain disappearing coastlines? Or is it part of something larger? A global memory of a time when the world looked very different, when great floods reshaped continents and erased entire peoples from history. As we gaze across the Atlantic from Cornwall's cliffs, the ocean seems to hold its breath. Somewhere beneath the waves, perhaps, lie the stones of Lyonesse, shrouded in silt, watched only by fish and currents. Or perhaps they were never there at all. The questions remain. The stories persist. And so, like the green children of Woolpit and the megaliths that predate recorded time, Lyonesse invites us to look again at the world we think we know, to consider what truths may still sleep beneath the surface waiting patiently to be discovered. As the waves above Lyonesse recede into memory and the last echoes of drowned cities fade beneath the sea, we now turn our attention inland, far from the ocean's reach, but no less steeped in mystery. From the ancient to the modern, the unexplained has never honored time or geography. It reaches into all eras and landscapes, often in the most ordinary of places. Our next story begins not in myth, but in 1970s California. A cold night, a remote wilderness, 5 men vanished, leaving behind only questions, scattered clues, and a trail of fear that remains unsolved to this day. It is a case that has been called America's Dyatlov Pass. To some, it is a tragic tale of misjudgment and exposure. To others, it hints at something deeper, something stranger. This is the haunting enigma of the Yuba County Five. On the evening of February 24, 1978, 5 friends from Yuba City, Bill Sterling, Jack Hewitt, Ted Weiher, Jack Madruga, and Gary Mathias, piled into a turquoise and white Mercury Montego. The group, all in their 20s and 30s, shared a few things in common: intellectual disabilities or mental health challenges, deep bonds of friendship, and a love of sports. That night, they were headed to Chico State to watch a college basketball game. They never came home. The next day, the Montego was found abandoned on a desolate mountain road in the Plumas National Forest, 70 miles from Chico, and far off their intended route home. The car showed no signs of mechanical trouble. The keys were gone, but the vehicle could have easily been started. There was food inside, maps, programs from the basketball game. No signs of struggle, no clear reason for them to be there. And then, nothing. For months, the mountains remained silent. As spring thawed the snow-covered wilderness, the first horrifying discovery came. A group of motorcyclists stumbled upon an old Forest Service trailer, some 20 miles from the car's last location. Inside, they found the emaciated body of Ted Wire. He was wrapped in layers of bedding, his feet badly frostbitten, and nearby, a stack of untouched rations. Someone, perhaps Ted himself, had survived there for weeks, maybe months, slowly fading away in a place where help was maddeningly close. Soon after, the bodies of Bill Sterling and Jack Madruga were discovered in the surrounding woods, partially consumed by animals. Jack Hewitt's remains were found months later, further into the forest. Only Gary Mathias was never found. To this day, his fate remains unknown. At first glance, the case seemed tragic, but explainable. 5 vulnerable young men lost in the mountains, overtaken by cold and confusion. But as investigators probed deeper, the details refused to line up. Why did they drive so far off their route into rugged terrain they weren't familiar with? Why abandon a functioning car with fuel in the tank in sub-freezing temperatures, with no sign of distress? Why hike more than 20 miles into deep snow without proper gear? And perhaps most hauntingly, why did Ted Wire, once in a shelter stocked with food and heating materials, slowly die rather than use them? Each piece of evidence only sharpened the mystery. The trailer where Ted was found had a working propane tank that could have provided heat. Dozens of military-style ration cans were untouched. There was even a locker filled with clothing. Yet, nothing had been used. The glass windows remained unbroken. Ted, who was partially blind without his glasses, lay wrapped in sheets, seemingly cared for by someone in his final days. His beard was grown out, suggesting he had survived as long as 13 weeks. But if someone was with him, where did they go? Gary Mathias's boots were found in the trailer. He had schizophrenia, but was reportedly stable on his medication and familiar with the area. His body, however, was never located. Search parties scoured miles of forest and snow-covered ground, but found no additional trace. Some speculated that the group had simply made a wrong turn or became confused. Others believed they were fleeing something, or someone. In the weeks following the disappearance, rumors and witness accounts began to circulate. A man claimed to have seen the group at a convenience store, buying snacks late at night. Another reported encountering 5 men and a woman in a red truck near the Oroville area. Yet none of these sightings could be confirmed. One particularly strange report came from a man who said he saw, and later helped, what appeared to be 5 men and a baby, their car stuck in the snow. He claimed he had tried to offer help, but the group seemed frightened or unwilling to respond. The man was dismissed by authorities, though his story was never definitively disproven. In the absence of answers, theories multiplied. Some suggest a case of foul play, perhaps a forced detour, or a panic-inducing encounter that drove them into the forest. Others suspect that Gary Mathias, with a documented history of psychiatric episodes, may have had a psychotic break and led the group astray. But if so, why didn't the others turn back? Why hike through freezing wilderness in the dead of night, unprepared and unequipped? Then there are the more speculative voices, those who draw parallels between this case and other high-strangeness events. The remote mountain setting, the sudden behavioral shift, the lack of physical evidence. All of it reminds some researchers of the Dyatlov Pass incident in the Soviet Union 2 decades earlier, where 9 hikers perished under similarly eerie circumstances. Was there something about this location, about the night itself, that bent the rules of rational behavior? Unusual weather patterns were noted in the area, electromagnetic disturbances, strange lights in the sky, and local legends about the nearby woods have occasionally made their way into fringe interpretations of the case. Could the Yuba County Five have stumbled into something they were never meant to see? Or experienced a psychological event that unraveled their collective sense of reality? The truth, if it exists, remains elusive. What we are left with is a trail that begins clearly. A basketball game, a familiar group of friends, a functioning car, and ends in silence. A car parked on a snow-covered road. A shelter filled with life-saving supplies left unused. 4 lives ended without clear cause. 1 man gone without a trace. There is no single theory that explains every facet of the Yuba County Five. Each explanation, rational or otherwise, solves some parts while complicating others. The case resists closure. Sometimes the most unsettling mysteries are not the ones from ancient history or beneath the ocean depths. Sometimes they come from recent memory, in familiar places, involving people who seem just like us. The story of the Yuba County Five is one of those mysteries. Not myth, not legend, but a moment frozen in time, partially illuminated, deeply shadowed. It challenges our assumptions about behavior, survival, and the limits of reason. And like the vanished realms we've explored before, from the drowned towers of Lyonesse to the subterranean visions of Woolpit, it leaves behind the same lingering question: what truly happened out there? And what truths might still lie hidden beneath the surface, waiting for someone to finally see them? The forests of Northern California concealed many of their secrets in cold silence. The Yuba County Five, swallowed by snow and circumstance, left behind more questions than answers. But the mountains are not the only places where the unknown gathers, where it sits patiently, waiting to be named, to be understood. Sometimes the greatest mysteries lie not in distant lands or ancient ruins, but in the places we think we know best. Quiet suburbs, city streets, neighborhoods bordered by fences and routine. And sometimes they arrive not as structures or civilizations, but as a single small life, taken before it had the chance to begin. Philadelphia, 1957. Winter was on its way out. The bare trees of Fox Chase, a northeast corner of the city, rustled in the wind, their branches clattering like brittle bones. Beneath their cover, near a lonely dirt road not far from a quiet state-run institution, someone noticed something strange. A cardboard box, half buried in the underbrush. Inside that box was the body of a boy. He was small, no older than 4 or 5, malnourished, bruised, wrapped in a faded flannel blanket, curled in on himself like a question mark. His hair had been cut, clumsily, recently. His hands and feet were wrinkled, as if they had been submerged in water before he was laid there. And no one came forward to claim him. In time, the press gave him a name: the boy in the box. To the police, he was simply Case 570593. But to the world, he became something else entirely, an enduring enigma, a symbol of innocence lost and identity withheld. A riddle that would haunt detectives, amateur sleuths, and families for generations. Who was this child, and why did no one miss him? From the outset, investigators were baffled. The box he had been placed in had once contained a bassinet, sold at a local department store, but no clear link could be traced. The boy himself bore no scars of long-term illness, no signs of prior medical care. His fingerprints and footprints returned no matches. Missing children reports, both local and national, offered no viable leads. Dozens of theories were proposed. Hundreds of tips were followed. None brought clarity. And yet, the city could not look away. Detectives returned to the scene again and again, sifting through the dirt for overlooked clues. Volunteers combed through birth records, adoption agencies, orphanages. The boy's image was published in newspapers, on flyers, even featured on utility bills, in the hopes that someone, somewhere, might recognize his face. But the phone remained quiet. As years passed and seasons changed, a small team of investigators refused to let go. Among them was Remington Bristow, an examiner with the medical office who would spend decades of his life haunted by the case. Bristow pored over leads with relentless determination. One theory led him to a foster home not far from the scene. Its proximity raised questions, and rumors swirled, but no evidence ever materialized. Others suggested the boy might have been abandoned by traveling carnival workers or an immigrant family afraid to approach authorities. Some believed he had been born into a situation so dire, so isolated, that his very existence had never been documented. That he had, in a grim sense, lived and died entirely unseen. But even among these grounded possibilities, stranger threads began to surface. In the 1990s, a woman known only as M came forward with a confession. She claimed her mother had purchased the boy, yes, purchased him from another family, and subjected him to years of abuse before his death. The story, while chilling, was never corroborated. M showed signs of mental instability, and investigators could not verify her claims. Yet the details she offered about the boy's appearance, about injuries never publicly released, left many unsettled. Had she witnessed something real? Or was this simply another layer of confusion? In recent years, advancements in forensic technology breathed new life into the cold case. The boy's remains were exhumed multiple times to extract mitochondrial DNA. Genealogical research offered new pathways, slowly untangling the threads of identity. Finally, in 2022, after 65 years, a name was announced: Joseph Augustus Zarelli. The mystery had a name now. But did it have an answer? Though the identification brought a measure of resolution, it opened yet more doors. Joseph had been born in 1953, the child of a local couple. But beyond the barest outline of his genealogy, little else could be confirmed. Why had he been placed in that box? Who was responsible for his death? And why, for more than half a century, had no one come forward? The family, it seemed, remained silent. Whether out of guilt, fear, or fractured memory, no clear testimony emerged. And so, even with a name, Joseph's story remained unfinished. As with so many unexplained cases, theories persist. Some researchers point to the proximity of state institutions, mental health facilities, and foster homes, suggesting the boy may have slipped through institutional cracks, a life never properly recorded. Others argue that Joseph may have been intentionally hidden, born into a family plagued by shame, secrecy, or systemic neglect. Still others look to the esoteric. Was Joseph a victim of a larger hidden network? Could his anonymity have served a darker purpose? There are whispers of rituals, of secret societies, of symbolic deaths, though these ideas drift far from the shores of evidence. Yet the very persistence of such theories underscores the void at the heart of this case, a vacuum that draws in the need to explain, to understand. Because what, after all, is more unsettling than a child forgotten? We build memorials to the dead. We trace family trees to know where we came from. We search for belonging, and we grieve those we lose. But Joseph was denied even that most basic recognition. For decades, he was a nameless face in a black and white photograph, a phantom in city records, a spirit hovering just out of reach. His case, unlike the mythic lost lands or ancient stone structures explored earlier, is not shaped by time alone. It is shaped by silence, by deliberate omission, perhaps, or by the simple, terrible truth that sometimes the smallest lives can slip past even the eyes of a city. What might Joseph have become had he lived? A father, a teacher, an artist? These are the questions that can never be answered. But perhaps that's not the point. Perhaps the greater mystery lies not only in what happened, but in how it was allowed to happen. In the society that turned its face away, or never looked at all. Today, visitors leave flowers at his final resting place. A new gravestone bears the name he never knew in life. But the answers, the full human answers, remain just beyond reach. And so, the mystery endures. Joseph Augustus Zarelli, once the boy in the box, remains an emblem of the unseen and the unresolved. A silent question posed to a world too busy to hear it. What else lies hidden beneath the surface? And how many other stories, like Joseph's, wait quietly in the shadows, longing to be found? Some mysteries are intimate, quiet tragedies tucked into the corners of cities, hidden in plain sight. Others stretch across continents and centuries, their shadows cast over vast landscapes of ice and stone. From the quiet suburbs of Philadelphia, we now turn our gaze toward a much colder horizon, to the edge of the known world. The Arctic, endless white, a frozen silence broken only by the crackle of wind against snow and the moan of distant ice. It is a place that tests the limits of human endurance and imagination. And somewhere within this frozen expanse, beneath layers of shifting sea ice and buried time, lies one of history's most haunting disappearances, the lost Franklin expedition. The year was 1845. The age of exploration was at its peak, driven by the belief that Earth's final frontiers were waiting to be charted by those bold enough to seek them. Among the greatest ambitions was the elusive Northwest Passage, a sea route through the Arctic that would link the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, transforming global trade and reshaping empire. Sir John Franklin, a seasoned naval officer and polar explorer, was chosen to lead the British Admiralty's most advanced expedition yet. 2 reinforced ships, HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, were equipped with the latest Victorian technology: steam engines, iron plating, desalination units for fresh water, and vast stores of preserved food. It was, by the standards of the time, an invincible endeavor. Franklin and his 128 men set sail from England in May of that year, vanishing into the Arctic with the confidence of empire and the silence of snow. They were never seen alive again. What followed was one of the largest search efforts in naval history. Dozens of expeditions were dispatched over the next 2 decades, combing through the icy labyrinth of the Canadian archipelago. Some were driven by duty, others by family ties, still others by the hope of discovery or salvation. But all were met with the same chilling absence. No survivors, no journals, no clear account of what had transpired. Only fragments emerged. Inuit accounts began to surface, passed on to British explorers who ventured north to search for the missing ships. These testimonies told of starving white men seen pulling sleds across the ice, of signs of desperation and perhaps something darker. In 1850, human remains were found on Beechy Island. 3 graves, perfectly aligned, marked the resting place of young sailors who had perished early in the voyage. Their bodies, exhumed years later, revealed signs of malnutrition and high levels of lead, likely from the tinned food or plumbing systems on board. Lead poisoning, it seemed, may have played a role in impairing judgment, weakening bodies, and eroding discipline. But that wasn't all. In the decades that followed, scattered remains were uncovered further south along King William Island. Skeletons, discarded boots, rusted knives. A note discovered in a cairn provided a grim timeline. Franklin had died in 1847, just 2 years after departure. The ships had become trapped in sea ice, and the surviving crew had attempted a desperate march south. It was a portrait of a journey descending into despair. Yet, even this grim trail failed to complete the puzzle. Why had the men not retreated earlier? Why had no coherent escape plan been executed? And what of the stories told by the Inuit, of shipwrecks, of campsites, and of cannibalism? This final detail would remain one of the most unsettling elements of the Franklin mystery. Multiple accounts from Inuit hunters describe the discovery of mutilated bodies, limbs removed, flesh missing. These stories, at first dismissed by Victorian investigators, would be tragically corroborated in the 1980s and 1990s, when forensic anthropologists examined bones found near the presumed route of escape. Cut marks, breaks consistent with the extraction of marrow. The signs were unmistakable. Had the final days of the Franklin men devolved into acts of survival too grim to speak aloud? Or were these injuries the result of later exposure, animals, or misinterpretation? The Arctic does not give up its truths easily, and yet, more revelations would come. In 2014, after 169 years, a Canadian search team discovered the wreck of HMS Erebus beneath the frigid waters near King William Island. The ship was remarkably well preserved, its hull largely intact in the icy depths. 2 years later, the second ship, HMS Terror, was found even further south in Terror Bay, eerily undisturbed, as though it had simply been abandoned and sealed beneath the ice. These discoveries reignited interest and questions in equal measure. Why had the ships separated? Had some men attempted to return north aboard Terror while others continued on foot? Was there a mutiny? Had survivors attempted to live among the Inuit? And if the ships were so well preserved, why hadn't the crew waited for the thaw? Onboard artifacts, from boots to bottles to preserved papers, offered tantalizing clues, but few definitive answers. The cold had protected the wrecks, but it had also sealed much of their story beneath permafrost and time. Some researchers have speculated that Franklin's fate was not merely the result of logistical failure, but a collision of hubris and harsh environment. The expedition carried with it not only technology, but assumptions about control, about nature, and about the superiority of empire. The Arctic, indifferent and ancient, was unmoved by such confidence. Others suggest the possibility of a deeper, more enigmatic force at work. Could magnetic anomalies in the polar region have interfered with navigation? Did the men encounter something unknown, disease, a psychological contagion, or something stranger still? Among Inuit legends are whispers of a place where the ice moves in unnatural ways, where spirits walk the snow and travelers become lost not by distance, but by deception. Could the Franklin crew, weakened and disoriented, have stumbled into such a place? And what of the Inuit oral traditions, which describe one of the ships floating like a ghost before sinking into the sea long after Franklin's official date of death? Could there have been survivors for years living in isolation before finally succumbing? There are still those who believe the full truth remains hidden, locked in journals yet to be recovered, or in the sealed silence of the wreckage below. As researchers continue to dive into the Erebus and Terror, collecting artifacts and scanning the seabed, there is hope that more of the story will emerge. But for now, much remains out of reach. The Franklin expedition stands as a symbol of ambition, and of the unforgiving vastness that lies just beyond the horizon of certainty. It reminds us that even the best prepared missions can be undone by the raw forces of nature, or by the limits of human foresight. And it leaves us with a question that echoes through the ice. What else lies waiting beneath the snow and sea? What stories remain frozen in time, silent, incomplete, and watching us from the stillness of the past? As we press further into this journey through the unknown, through lost cities, impossible structures, and vanished people, we are reminded again and again that the world holds more secrets than answers. And sometimes, those secrets are not ancient at all, merely hidden, waiting for the ice to melt, for the silence to break, for the story to continue. From the wind-scoured silence of the Arctic, where ships slumber beneath ice and secrets lie preserved in frozen time, we journey southward, out of the cold and into the haze of the early American frontier. Here, among the rolling hills and quiet valleys of Virginia, another enigma took root, not of bone and wreckage, but of parchment and symbols. It is a mystery encoded in silence, whispered through generations, scrawled in cipher and sealed with a promise of unimaginable treasure. It is known simply as the Beale Ciphers. The story begins, as so many American legends do, with a traveler and a tale. In 1820, a man by the name of Thomas Jefferson Beale checked into the Washington Hotel in Lynchburg, Virginia. He was, by all accounts, courteous and composed, yet distant, as if carrying the weight of something untold. During his stay, he entrusted the hotel's innkeeper, Robert Morris, with a locked iron box. He told Morris that the contents were important, but not immediately useful. If Beale did not return within 10 years, the box was to be opened. Beale never came back. Years later, Morris pried open the box and discovered a collection of papers. Among them were 3 pages written in cipher, a brief letter from Beale himself, and a promise that these encrypted texts contained the location of a buried treasure, gold, silver, and jewels of extraordinary value, hidden somewhere in the hills of Bedford County, Virginia. What followed would become one of the most perplexing puzzles in American cryptographic history. Only one of the 3 ciphers has been definitively decoded. It is known as Cipher Number 2, and it details the contents of the treasure. Thousands of pounds of precious metals said to be buried in a vault 6 feet underground. The cipher was cracked using an unusual method, a numerical codebook based on the United States Declaration of Independence. Each number in the cipher corresponded to a word from the document. The first letter of that word provided the decoded character. But the other 2 ciphers, the ones believed to reveal the treasure's exact location and the names of the heirs for whom it was intended, remain unbroken to this day. Over 2 centuries have passed since Beale vanished into history, but the mystery he left behind has only deepened. Countless treasure hunters, cryptographers, and skeptics have tried to unravel the remaining codes. Some have devoted their lives to the task. Some have vanished into the forests of Virginia, convinced they were within reach of fortune. Others have walked away with nothing but frustration and the feeling that the truth, if it ever existed, has slipped into legend. But what exactly is this truth? The tale, as it's told in an anonymously published 1885 pamphlet, claims that Beale led a group of 30 adventurers westward in 1817 on a hunting expedition into what is now New Mexico. There, they allegedly stumbled upon a massive deposit of gold and silver, perhaps an abandoned Spanish mine or a natural lode, and spent the next 18 months transporting it, in secret, back to Virginia. Fearing for its safety, Beale buried it and created the ciphers as both map and will. It's a compelling story. But is it history or fiction? Historians have searched extensively for evidence of Beale's existence outside the cipher narrative. No verifiable records tie a man named Thomas Jefferson Beale to any large expedition, nor to land claims, nor to the discovery of treasure. The few historical threads that do exist are tenuous at best, possibly even fabricated to give the tale an air of authenticity. Skeptics argue that the Beale story was an elaborate hoax, perhaps concocted by the anonymous author of the pamphlet himself, James B. Ward, or someone close to him. They point to inconsistencies in the writing style, anachronistic language, and the mathematical improbability of one cipher being solvable while the others remained completely opaque. If cipher number 2 was decoded using the Declaration of Independence, why wouldn't the others follow the same logic? And yet, the mystery persists. What makes the Beale ciphers so compelling is not just the possibility of buried treasure, but the tension between fact and fabrication. The one decoded message is detailed, almost too detailed, listing exact weights of gold and silver, even describing the vault as being lined with stone and sealed with an iron lid. It reads like a document meant to be believed. So, if it were a hoax, To what end? Unlike other 19th century frauds, there was no immediate financial gain to be had from the Beale story. No subscription, no investment scheme, no admission fee to some fantastical exhibit. The pamphlet was sold for 50 cents, a modest sum, and seems almost academic in tone, not sensational. Could it have been a literary experiment? A cryptographic challenge? Or could it be that the key to the other ciphers was lost, and with it the ability to verify whether the treasure ever truly existed? Others, more speculative in their theories, suggest that the remaining ciphers are not merely word substitution codes, but far more advanced encryptions, polyalphabetic ciphers, steganographic masks, or even something akin to a book cipher using a source text now unknown. If so, Beale's secret may have been too clever even for himself, its contents locked beyond retrieval. There are those who entertain even stranger possibilities. Was the treasure real, but meant never to be found? A decoy? A riddle designed to distract or obscure another purpose entirely? Some fringe theorists have suggested that the ciphers contain layers of meaning, not just maps and names, but hidden messages or coordinates tied to esoteric knowledge. That the treasure is metaphorical, or tied to ancient secrets transported across continents. After all, Bedford County lies in a region steeped in Native American lore and colonial history. The Appalachian Hills conceal caves, tunnels, and places unmarked on modern maps. Could the Beale treasure have been stashed in a site once sacred or forgotten? Could its concealment have been deliberate not just for security, but for protection? And what of the cipher structure itself? Modern computational analysis has failed to crack the remaining messages, but has not definitively proven them to be random either. They still could be meaningful, an open-ended uncertainty that fuels continued obsession. The Beale ciphers are not just a code. They are a test, a mirror, perhaps, reflecting our hunger for meaning and chaos, our urge to chase patterns through the fog of time. Many have searched the forests around Montvale, digging at compass points and rock formations, convinced that the key lies not in language but in the land itself. Others pore over the texts late into the night, tracing numbers with algorithms, hoping to find a rhythm that might finally give way to sense. But as with so many enduring mysteries, it may not be the treasure that draws us, but the chase, the sense that hidden just beyond comprehension lies a story unfinished, waiting for its final piece. And so, the cipher remains. 3 pages, 1 solution, 2 yet unread. The iron box may have opened long ago, but its secrets are still sealed. Perhaps forever. Or perhaps, somewhere out there, deep in the hills or within a forgotten book spine, the key still waits, waiting for someone not just to find it, but to understand.